hit go live, and it is preparing to live stream. So I've let in our guests, and I think we'll be ready to go in about 6 seconds.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Woo. All right. Well, looks like we have a quorum. Can we have a roll call, please, Ms. Secretary?
Amy Blankenship,
Aye.
Chuck Cornforth,
Present, yeah.
Don Floyd, present. Damon Green,
Here.
Don Kessinger,
Here.
Monica Terry,
Here.
Leonard Green.
Present. We have a quorum. Thank you very much. And with that, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you and welcome, guests and all. With that, feedback. I ask for an approval of the agenda, a motion for the approval of the agenda as presented.
Move to approve the agenda as submitted. Cornforth.
Second that.
Been properly moved and second that we approve the agenda as submitted. We get a roll call vote, please.
Amy Blankenship,
Aye.
Chuck Cornforth,
Aye.
Don Floyd, Damon Green,
Aye.
Don Kessinger,
Aye.
Monica Terry,
Aye.
Leonard Green.
Aye, motion carries. And we'll adjust the one movement a little bit later. Next up, Superintendent's report. Dr. Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you, sir. Certainly a lot of things going on, and so I kind of had the first topic as a general item on every board meeting for a while. There are actually several items in the board agenda tonight that will actually hit on this item. So I'll just provide a few items and updates and then answer any questions, but certainly I think there's going to be a lot of those things that will be answered in the presentations tonight. One of the things that I mentioned is there a continual conversation with Jackson County Health Department. Every other week and now starting every week, the superintendents in this area and in Eastern Jackson County continue to meet with the health department as well as Frank White. On that call is people from the health department and Frank White and people in his office, and we have discussions about what's coming up, what's going on, what the numbers look like, and their recommendations. Some of that conversation recently has centered around athletics and conversations around whether we should or should not continue to play athletics, and then what will the suburban conference do. As of right now, we have continued to go forward until there is any kind of guidance that's provided that would inhibit that. So we are hearing that there could potentially be something coming out from Jackson County. I haven't seen it yet. So once that occurs, it may change what we do. We'll just have to wait and see, but I'll make sure and keep everybody updated, and I'll make sure the board's updated as well. But that's kind of what we know right now. And again, we keep talking to them and asking them what's going on and what they think. I can tell you that they're very concerned by the numbers at the moment. But I do know that last week and into this week, the numbers have improved. So leading into August, they certainly were not going the right direction, but we've at least seen some positive movement the last week or two. That's certainly not a trend as of yet. So we've got a few more weeks before we can start to think of that as a positive trend in the right direction. Another part of that, and we'll have some of that discussion later on, but our teachers and certified staff are set to return on Monday. They'll be in 5 days of training and a variety of different things. And so again, that'll be part of our presentation. And then as it's mentioned a little bit later, all of our staff will return the following week on the 31st, and that's when convocation will occur as well. So we'll touch on that just a little bit throughout the presentation, but that's kind of a little bit different from athletic standpoint and from Jackson County Health Department update, but certainly a lot more things that are going on in the district. But I'm happy to answer any initial questions. But like I said, I know that there's a academic update coming, a few things on the agenda tonight around cleaning and some other things that I think we've sent to you already, but we'll address those, but I'm happy to answer any additional questions right now that may not be addressed in the presentations tonight.
Were you part of that meeting with Misha? Was it last week or earlier this week? I saw a story on it today.
I'm not on the mission board, so no, but Dr. Danny Clemens, who is in North Kansas City, is on the board. And so we've heard a variety of different conversations from him and what they've done. Obviously, the guidance that they had initially that they put out over a month ago changed. And so then part of that was recommending, or at least allowing the possibility of moving fall sports to spring. And so I think there were a few school districts that were looking at that possibility, but I think many in the suburban conference were kind of waiting to see what Jackson County Health was going to do, if they were going to come out with any guidance for or against, or anything in between, just so we know kind of where they stand before everybody makes their final decision.
I know I should know this, but we primarily play Missouri schools, not Kansas schools, right?
That is correct.
Unless Kansas has already moved to fall.
Depends on the sport, but yeah, for the most part, especially in football and things, we predominantly, with any sport, predominantly play all the Missouri teams, but it does happen occasionally with Kansas.
And is the suburban conference, is that all the teams that we would play, are they all in the suburban conferences?
For the most part, yeah, I mean, that's kind of on our area, it's kind of this kind of part of eastern Jackson County. And so not everybody is a part of that, but it is mostly the schools that we end up playing, yes. Once again, I'll provide you additional updates when I receive them. And that changes day to day, as you've been able to tell. So that could be tomorrow that I hear something else and it may change what we do. The DESE conference was recently, obviously last week, and that was a little bit different because everything was live streamed and we didn't attend in person. But one of the things that I thought was really unique that they did was they highlighted a different story every single day. That was a positive one of some example of a school district going out of their way to ensure students received the accolades and things that they deserve. And we were fortunate to be highlighted. I think it was on Tuesday, and our graduation ceremony was highlighted and talked about very highly, and certainly a lot of pictures. And I think we sent that, but it definitely was a bright spot for the state and a bright spot for our district. And we continue to receive a lot of positive feedback over how that was accomplished. New teacher orientation, certainly a little different this year and how that's looked and operated, but we did bring our new teachers in. And so ask maybe Dr. King to just kind of give us her sense of how things went for the last few days.
So I just got an update on the survey we took for the new teachers. So we did 3 days with them. We did one completely virtual, one we brought them in for a half day, elementary in the morning and secondary in the afternoon, to give them their devices and those kind of things. And then the third day, we had them go to their buildings and meet with their coach and their building administrator. And one of the things we were really worried about and concerned about is, do they feel welcome? We wanted to make sure that was very much a part of it. So 100% answered they felt welcomed by the district, and loved that we had a sign in their yard when they got home the first day that said that they were proud Grandview employee, like what we had done for the teachers on Teacher Appreciation Day. The numbers were very high, that they felt all the Ludo and presentations. We had some Zoom presentations with the building principals with them. They were all very positive on how relevant they were. And about 85% of them were finished with all of their modules. So good feedback.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I was very grateful that we at least brought them in 2 different sections, an AM and a PM in the auditorium. So there was still a lot of distance between everybody, but it was still good to be able to see them in person and still welcome them and tell them a little bit about the district and where we are and what we're doing. So it was still neat to see them, but I'm very glad that they still feel welcome. That's not always easy to do, but certainly their site principals have a lot to do with that as well. Convocation, so certainly it's a little different this year as well. Normally we pile everybody into an auditorium, and I'm usually actually grateful to do that because I get to see everybody at once. Obviously, this is not the year to do that. So we will have convocation, but everyone will be at their own individual sites and have a larger room at every individual site, so that way they can still participate. It'll be a shortened version, a few videos, obviously, There will be a couple live things. We'll still start with some kind of surprise at the beginning and just try to still make it a little bit fun, but it'll definitely be shorter and we'll stream it. So we'll send you out a schedule and kind of show you what's happening at each individual site and things, but also we'll make sure that you get a link that if you want to log in, at least watch that, that you can do that as well. Enrollment update, obviously, we'll kind of give you the numbers of kind of where we are right now and what that kind of looks like. As Ms. Deanda is prone to say, it's sometimes comparing apples to kumquats because we're doing everything online and then we moved the first day of school and kind of did some things, but you've got a few updates for us tonight.
So we are pleased how it is going, especially since it's all online. It's hard to compare the numbers for just the reason that the superintendent pointed out. But we will say that parents have had an additional week at this point to enroll over previous years, so that's been a good thing. They had 5 weeks to register this year instead of the 4. And if we use a 2-week before school starts comparison, even though they're different dates, we're ahead about 300 enrollees at this time. We're coming close to 70%, not quite there yet. Have done very well at the high school. And so next year our target will be doing better at the elementary as well. But at this time, enrollment is taking place by appointment only at the sites. So we can maintain as much health and safety as we can. We're gonna brainstorm some of the different elementary schools to maybe do some additional things to get parents to get online, but really parents can almost do, all parents could do almost 100% online, except if they needed an affidavit. And even then, they can submit most of that online as well. We made some improvements in regard to residency because that's always kind of been an area that took us a little more time. And this year, the residency department changed some of, not necessarily what the things that we have to have, but for some of the apartments that their utilities are rolled into their rent. We made that a little easier for them this year to provide documentation and to kind of keep that from being a roadblock. And we also added a lot of different opportunities for our Spanish-speaking families to get forms in Spanish and to have more translators to help work with them at the sites where we had the help. Well, at this site where we had the families that we were helping. So we think it was more accessible and usable for them, which we also think has improved our rate of enrollment. But if that's at this time, that's kind of where we stand.
In the elementary, is that primarily kindergarten missing, or is it just across the board?
We did have a lot of kindergarten missing, so we reached out to try to reach out to those parents. If, it's hard to reach out for them if they've never enrolled.
Right.
So we've done some things to try to reach out and get those kindergarten parents in. We worked with High Grove to sort of maybe identify some folks that they knew. But that's so new for them, and it's the first time that they've enrolled, that we need to strategize to do that a little better. So we hope those kindergartners are out there and they haven't disappeared, but we're still trying to drum up business for those kindergarten grades. Those folks are used to coming to the site to enroll. And so it's gotten better as we've moved forward with centralized enrollment, but we still have work to do, so.
Have you guys heard very many people saying, I'm not enrolling, I'm switching to homeschool? Are you guys getting any feedback from that?
No, and actually a little bit to the opposite.
Actually, I had a couple opposite, people who have said that they were wanting MOCAP, that were going to homeschool before when they called it request MOCAP. Mr. Sizemore had a conversation with them and they were like, oh, we didn't know you were offering virtual. We definitely want that. And so they're actually going to go on and enroll. And then we actually, we're hoping we actually could maybe regain some of our homeschool parents.
Sure. Okay.
Last piece would be on the board priorities, certainly several things on there that I won't necessarily have to read to you. Most of them are things that you are always already aware of, especially the board workshop that everybody participated in, and just highlighting, did do a Facebook Live recently, as well as we had our rollout, obviously, of our plans of what we're doing the following year. It's hard to believe some things when I go back to my calendar and I look back what's happened since the last board meeting. And I feel like it's been about 3 years since the last board meeting, and it's been 30 days. So a lot of things that have kind of happened since then and such, but certainly a lot of good things and a lot of work that's going into what's going to happen over the course of the next 2 weeks as we lead into the first day of school, even though it's virtual. A lot of plans and a lot of very detailed things that you'll see some tonight, but a lot of things on there, but very proud of the work that's been done by our team and kind of where we are, knowing that nothing that we've done has been perfect, and we'll learn from it and we'll get better at it, but I'm still very proud of where we are today. So that's my report for this evening, unless there's any other questions.
Are there any other questions? If not, we'll move on. Thank you, Kenny. Appreciate it. Next up, salient dates.
Yeah, I think I mentioned earlier, obviously, about convocation being on the 31st. We'll make sure and send you that information as well. And then the other highlight certainly is the board workshop on September 3rd. We'll focus on finances, as we mentioned, and certainly talk about things that are coming up and where we're at, and looking toward the future of those pieces. And then our regular board meeting being on the 24th.
All right. Thank you very much. Any written correspondence?
We have none tonight, Mr. President.
All right, thank you very much. Finance Committee report. Chuck. You're on mute.
There we go. There we go. We're off mute. The Finance Committee met on Tuesday, August 18th at 5:15 p.m. Attendees were myself, Chuck Cornforth, Mr. Damon Green, member, and Don Kessinger, member. Also, Miss Anne Marie Cook, Assistant Superintendent. There were no guests in the audience. Ms. Cook asked if there was any questions for the open meeting tonight. There were none. Inspections of warrants. I examined those warrants over 15,000. Mr. Damon Green examined the district's purchasing cards. Mr. Kissinger examined the expense and reimbursement warrants. There was a question on the receipts provided on the purchasing card. On one of the purchasing cards, Ms. Cook has reviewed those documents and counted for all charges. Based on the examination, the Finance Committee recommends the warrants be approved by the Board of Education. We adjourned at 5:35 p.m.
All right, thank you, sir. Any questions regarding the Finance Committee report? And if not, we will continue. Recapitulation of funds. Dr. Rodriguez.
Yes, you have the financials through the month of July. When you look at the revenues, we are down approximately $500,000 compared to this time last year. Last month, we did share with you that the state had withheld money from our July payment. And so that is what it makes up that $500,000 difference from last year. We are watching that. We will get our state aid payment tomorrow, so not sure what will happen tomorrow. They were hoping to only do it in July, but I want to wait and see the distribution of what exactly what we got. So continuing to track that along with our local revenues. As we know, I shared with you last month, we had gotten a preliminary assessed valuation for this year, and it had gone down, which in some ways is disappointing. However, I'd rather we have accurate information when we set our tax levy so that we can appropriately set it and generate the revenues that we expect to get. So stay tuned, because we'll be doing that next month. So more information will be coming. On the expenditure side, our expenditures are also down just shy of $500,000 from this time last year. Some of it's the timing of payments, but we also had reduced summer school expenditures because we had a smaller summer school program this summer. Obviously, there's very limited activity in July as the first payment under our new contracts and work agreements occurs in August. So starting next month, you'll see those expenditures start to tick up a little bit. So that's the report. I'm happy to respond to any questions you may have.
All right, any questions regarding the report? All right, thank you very much. Look, was that someone?
No, you're good.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. Ms. Secretary, do we have anyone that is registered to speak to any item?
No, we don't.
All right, thank you very much. With that, I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
David Green, second.
Been properly moved and second that we approve the consent agenda as presented. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Amy Blankenship,
Aye.
Chuck Cornforth,
Aye.
Don Foy. Aye. David Green,
Aye.
Ron Kessinger,
Aye.
Monica Terry,
Aye.
Leonard Green.
Aye, motion carries unanimous. Thank you very much. As far as our action discussion agenda, student success. Rodriguez.
If we could, I'd like to ask that we move our Caring for Kids presentation up, so that way one of our guests can log off whenever we finish.
That would be fine with me. Thank you, sir.
You know, as we've told the board before, and certainly very proud of the partnership that we have with Caring for Kids and the things that we've done. Moving to this partnership, it's just strengthened and grown over the last little bit, and it seems like we've been with them longer than we have. That's because I think it just was such a good match for us. So we talked about it the last couple of months, but certainly I'm very appreciative that Portia's here and able to share a little bit more information, kind of give us an update. She'll probably also even maybe share a little bit of news in her life in terms of the organization and where she's moving up to. But I appreciate her being here. So Portia, I'll give you the floor.
Thank you. Will I be able to share my screen?
You should be able to. Let me know if you can.
Okay. Everybody see that okay?
You're good.
All right. Well, first I would like to say thank you to the board for having me this evening, and to Dr. Rodriguez for giving Caring for Kids the time to give a update to you all. So for everyone, I wanted to make sure we always remind, update, and educate those who do not know what we do at Caring for Kids. And so Caring for Kids is a community school partnership. We're a self-funded nonprofit that serves public school districts by mobilizing sustainable school partnerships. And we've done that here for the last 2 school years in Grandview. As a backbone organization, we have a 4-step engagement collaboration that we do over and over again, that we will now be doing in, as of this school year, 10 school districts, including the great school district of Grandview. We're goal driven. And so we started out as a needs-based organization, but we very quickly noticed that it was important to identify goals and help principals to get those goals met and districts to get those goals met through project orientation. And so we do that in a mini collective impact where we bring resources and volunteers together to support the principal's goal. And it's a very school-centric process. And so we are a process and we're not a program. And that process simply says, how can we help? And we encourage all of our partners to continue to ask that question over and over again. And then we work collaboratively. And we're trained as a team to engage the community collaboratively, because we truly do believe that when church, business, and civic work together, we're able to show our schools and our children a healthy community. So our mission and vision hasn't changed. Our vision is for all children to have hope and reach their highest potential. And our mission is to mobilize community organizations in partnership with schools to inspire hope and to help them prepare children to impact the world. And so if you'll see to your screen, there is a great picture where Caring for Kids partnered with the Grandview School District in a grandeur project where teachers, every last one of them, received a great sign in their yard that just simply said that they were a hero that lived at their home. And we divided those signs and drove all over Kansas City, all parts of the metro, just to partner in morale and hope, and letting everyone know that although we're struggling through a rough time, a rough patch, that we're in it together. And so that is at the highest level of what we do on an individual level in each school. And so it was a great opportunity to partner with you all in this endeavor. And I believe that this is one of the other things, that put Grandview on the map. It's something that I'm able to brag about and share as an example of what Caring for Kids and school district partnership looks like at the highest level. So, as Dr. Rodriguez spoke, we have some organizational updates. Our current executive director, Nancy Mitchell, is retiring. And upon her retiring, I have been selected as the successor as the new executive director effective September 1. During that time, we will continue to work. I will continue to work closely with Grandview School District, all the schools, while we are in the process of hiring the person who will be the new partnership director. And once that person has been selected, you all will be informed and you'll be able to meet them, and we'll be training them and getting them used to all the principles and the way we work so well with Grandview. And our goal is only to go up from here and to continue the partnership and relationship that we've grown. The other thing is that we have updated our 4-step process. So for the last couple of years, our process has been preparation, connection, implementation, and sustainability. And we went back to the drawing board a little bit, and we thought about those words talked about what we did. We want to talk about what the goal is for each one of those steps. And so in step 1, our preparation is for engagement. And when we're engaging principals, we're engaging superintendents, we're engaging faith leaders, business leaders, and civic, all in their particular communities, so that when we bring each other together, when we bring everyone together, step 2 happens and we connect. And then in the connection, there is implementation when we're doing those projects and we're getting together all of our goals. However, we want to achieve empowerment by the end of step 3. That says that our partnerships are strong and they are working together, and the sustainability leads us as Caring for Kids to move into what we long for, which is a coaching position where partnerships are strong, they are percolating along, and we are able to coach them and encourage them and provide resources and education only to keep their partnerships growing and strong. So Grandview School District is on the grow. We are in all 9 schools. We have 10 faith organizations, 12 business, and 8 civic. And it all starts with the right question. How can we help you achieve your goals and equip students to reach their highest potential? And so I put our numbers here that we have right now. However, we know that they are a bit different due to COVID. There were lots of projects, unfortunately, that we had great ideas for that we were unable to complete this school year. And so we're still working through all those things and meeting with our partners to see exactly how many in-kind donations were coming into the school district prior to COVID, and exactly how many projects were completed. And so these are the numbers that we had prior to what we've been dealing with COVID. So as we look into 2020, we know that things will look different. However, we still have to set goals and we have to try our best to achieve those goals. And My number one goal for our partnership with Caring for Kids and the Grandview School District is to continue the organizational district partnership that we have. We are taking our own selves through the 4-step process at the highest level. And I do believe that we're truly at the place of sustainability. We have worked very hard at building very strong relationships, and we can only go up from here. There will continue. We want those partnership tables to just grow. I would love to see every single school's partnership list and table look as big as the one we have at Grandview High School right now. If you ever want to see that, it's pretty remarkable. So you might want to jump in on one of their Zoom calls, or when we're back in the building, sit around the table. It is an amazing sight to see what partnership and collaboration looks like on the ground here in Grandview. We would like to work with, continue to work with the communications department, with Sheba. We want to strengthen that. We want to share more positive stories. There are some great things happening in the partnerships around the district, and we don't hear enough about that. And so we would like to make that noise a little bit louder. There are lots of things that are being said and lots of things that are being done, but there are some great things that are happening in Grandview through partnership, and we want those things to speak louder than any negativity, anything that would say that you guys aren't doing the best that you can do, which we know that you are. I would also like to see us strengthen the partnerships of Belvedere Elementary Care, Grandview Middle School, and Meadowmere. So if you guys know their locations, oftentimes location can be an issue. So for schools, particularly like Belvedere, Grandview Middle, and Meadowmere, location. That happens a lot. So they're not near a lot of things. And so finding partners for them is a little bit difficult. So we want to work at ways that we can partner together, Caring for Kids and the school district, at funneling potential partners towards those schools so that their partnership tables can grow and their collaboration can be experienced at the highest level. For CARE, we want, location is not really an issue. However, because there are so many other buildings near CARE, a lot of those partnerships, those organizations have partnered with those schools that are closer on the main strip there in Maine. And so we'd like to see a couple more businesses or church organizations that are supporting CARE and the principal there. So I will skip down to the how can you help before I do my the other point, basically saying that we would just love it when you guys are hearing someone say, well, I would love to get involved, and you know, my church wants to do this and my business does that. You know, encourage them to seek out partnership with these schools. The principals are great. You guys already know that, and they have great goals and projects that they like to achieve, even during COVID. Achieving these things can be a bit difficult with only a few partners around the table. And so as we look into that, we are having some exciting conversations around community partnership support for teachers during virtual learning. I've been working diligently with Joanna there to talk through and do the heavy lifting around logistics and liabilities and volunteers and meals and all those things that we always have to talk about when we're talking about children and their safety. And so we are continuing that conversation, and I would be happy to give Dr. Rodriguez an update for you all when we have settled a bit more on what that will look like. But we definitely have some community partners that are extremely interested in supporting in this way. So finally, I'm done at this point, and I would like to know if you all had any questions.
I don't have a question, but I would like to say thank you. This has been awesome, a great partnership, a great program, and anything that benefits our kids and our community, I'm more than thankful for. So thank you for what you're doing, and congratulations on the move up. I look forward to, you know, whatever the future brings to us. Anyone else? Questions?
I got one question. So you say you're looking for partners for those schools that you mentioned. What are some things that you're looking for? Does the school have a list of things that, you know, whoever wants to volunteer or support, you have a list of things that you guys are looking for the partnership with?
So due to the process that we use at Caring for Kids, because it's not needs-based, we encourage them to first directly choose high-level goals that they want to meet, and then the projects would support those goals. And so mainly it's willing organizations to come around the table and bring whatever they have. And then when the principal says, for example, if their goal is teacher morale, and they say, you know, we would like to offer a staff meal. If that organization is able to help support that particular project, then they would communicate that with the partnership during that time. And so it's not more, it's less about a list of needs and more about a list of willing hearts and willing organizations to engage in this work and just be available. And when we say, how can we help? They learn that by being around the table.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to speak on that as well. I had the opportunity to be a part of this organization through our church, First Baptist. And so I'm the connection with the high school. Our pastor's the connection actually with Conwest. So we actually help with 2 different schools. To kind of go along with your question is when we sit around with a round table type situation and just ask, like she said, what do they need? At the high school, we started a project to help with the courtyard. We started a project to help with paint. Situations have changed. You know, we weren't always able to get everything done, but just things like high school needed earbuds for a test. We were able to provide those for them. Conwest, we had a hat, I think, and glove drive. That was something the school desperately needed for their families. So we come together and we can pull resources to get those things done. And it's, and I think First Baptist is looking at possibly doing some things here come this school year, from my understanding as well. But it's just opportunities so you can be with a business or individual or whatever that you're connected with. And then when you come together, you pull your resources and, like she said, time. So it's a great thing. So I'd highly recommend anybody to join.
Thank you, Amy. And she's been a joy to work with. I know you guys know that, but I appreciate her so much.
Any other questions, comments? Is my VP in there?
I am. I don't have any questions today. Sorry. It may be a first.
I'm checking on you to make sure. I was getting kind of concerned there for a minute.
I'm here. I'm rapt attention.
The night is young.
It is. I'm holding this for you, Leonard. How about that?
All right. Well, if no other comments, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Kenny, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Portia. Appreciate it very much.
Have a good night.
All right, so we'll move on. Next item, we're going to talk about curriculum instruction. We've kept this as another item that we've left on our agenda purposely because there's so many things rapidly changing. We want to make sure that we keep everybody as informed as possible. So once again, I've asked Dr. King to go through a variety of different pieces and keep you updated and answer your questions. So she's ready to go.
I won't be able to show my screen because I'm on the Zoom call. I'm going to actually send you,
Okay.
and I'll be ready when I'm ready to pull it up, okay?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Sorry, I just thought of that when I was about to show my screen. So good evening. I love being able to provide enough updates because it changes every hour. That what we've been involved with and what we've been doing. So the CNI team has been working extremely hard to make sure the first 2 weeks of professional development are going to be relevant and meaningful for all of the teachers. And let me know when you get ready to do that. So on this screen right now is actually where we have created a spreadsheet that details details are our first 2 weeks of PD. This is going to be kind of hard to see, but I'm just going to walk you through just to see what we have done. Beginning on the 24th, we had principal meets with the staff to lay out expectations, and then all day and the next day, then we all put that here. Then we're able to go through our Canvas training, and then have breakout sessions as well. All these will be done modularly and in small groups in the buildings. And then moving on to the next day, we've designed the first week that they come back is really all about Canvas and technical things that we're going to be able to do. We're very excited about this Play Posit on Wednesday, PD for Wednesday. This is a program that's going to allow teachers to make recordings and then pause. And before the child or student can push the next play to continue it, they have to add something. They have to have responded, and the teacher can respond back and forth to individual students as well. Or how we're going to talk about those essential standards from the grade previous that children were in that we're not going to be able to, that didn't get met necessarily. And what we've done is we've taken those essential standards and embedded them in the curriculum in the next year where they fit, just to know that they're going to have to add a couple of 2-3 lessons to maybe bring them back up to where they were, something they didn't get. We've talked a lot about the accelerated learning. What does it mean to be an accelerated learner? It means we're not going to come back in and repeat the last quarter of the semester from the previous year. We're actually going to start where they are, the standards that they're at, and we're going to embed backwards any missing skills or any missing learning that needed to take place. As we've reminded teachers over and over again, students have always come to us with gaps. Sure, the gaps may be a little more substantial this year, but they've always come to us with gaps. We know what to do. It takes extra time and it takes differentiation. So if you can see it, we've also got partner meetings with Zoom links already into these documents. Each building, then the second week has a tab that they're able to customize the week 2 PD for their buildings, with the requirement that they have to have PD in here on relationships. How are we going to build relationships virtually? We know the power in keeping kids engaged will be those relationships that they build. How are we going to build community? How are we going to involve our parents? And then how are we going to look at PLC work, that professional learning work, learning community? How are we going to use data to drive our instruction? So each building, as you go across these tabs, has their own kind of design on that second week, knowing that by the end, everything will have been covered, and they have a chance to go on to phase 2 of Canvas training. Mr. Sizemore has arranged all of training for Canvas. If you've ever been on campus, it's a lot. And so we've got phase 1, what is the essential, every teacher must have to be able to begin their classroom virtually. And then we've got phase 2 and phase 3 modules that they can increase if they like. I want to do more. I want to add a little bit more. I want to see what else is available, calendar, reminds, and all kinds of different things. They can go through whatever modules they like. So there's some choice in here as well by each building. So this has been, I mean, very, if you can imagine, this has taken a lot of time and just to make sure that we are all, so something going on here. Yeah, sorry, but these are all ready to go, and that each building principal feels some ownership over it, as well as knowing that the standard is everybody's going to receive this much. And then anything that they choose to go over with it, they're able to do that as well. Any questions on this? I'd be glad to entertain any questions on this. It worked very, very well. I love this. I love Stephanie's. If I can pull it over to Stephanie's Hydro. She has already linked every single thing in to this spreadsheet that they're able to just go in and link directly on there. So she's my overachiever already.
This definitely is different than what we've done in the past, and certainly having a lot more things to do, having more time with them. But it's usually never been this detailed. So it's, teachers are going to know and staff are going to know exactly what's going to be happening in their lives for those 2 weeks. And it's going to be very, very detailed and broken out. So certainly very excited about that piece. But again, the principals also were able to add individual pieces with some constructs and certain parameters. But it is extremely detailed, so I appreciate her and her staff, but it's going to give teachers what they're looking for in terms of what's happening and how am I gonna learn, where am I gonna learn about all this stuff. This is what's coming when they come back on Monday.
So they have received this already, and what I really also love that the C&I team was able to do is once they learn how to use Canvas, everything of their PD, there will be a module in Canvas, so they will see how it is to be a student and how it is to be the teacher. And they will receive their professional development through modules that Scott has created, Ms. McCracken has created, some of the coaches have created, and then Scott's team of Peter Norgren and Mary, Cordray. I want to say Peter, Paul, and Mary always.
I was gonna take it higher, Paul.
I know. They've been working very, very hard. They've put in so much overtime, it's not even funny, but they are really working hard because they want this to be meaningful and very intentional for every single teacher coming back. So that we're providing the best preparation for the students as well.
You may have answered this, and just to clarify, the week 2, did the building principals come up with that, or did you kind of give them a format and then they added?
So how I went to them, I said, they will make fun of me because I'm not a sportsy person, but I used the sports analogy with them. I said, I'm giving you the goalposts. Here's the parameters. You can work anywhere in here.
Okay.
But what you have to have you have to show me how you're going to build relationships virtually, or with your hybrid, or with your in person, how you're going to use data to drive every single move we make, and how you're going to reach out to that community. We have to partner with parents to make this work. And so they've all come up with brilliant plans. We had posters up in here. Kathy took them down, and that's what they were planning. They were in here planning, what is that going to look like in my building? They walked through and gave each other feedback on, I like that idea. I want to add that to mine. And they really came up with some great, and you're going to see that later because that is going to become their school improvement plans. Instead of the other school improvement plans where we were looking at, they've really thought of how does this become in 30 days, what am I going to do? In 60 days, what will I do? In 90 days, what will I do to make sure we are still meeting these goals? Because we know in the end, that's what's going to raise the student achievement.
So how are you going to ensure parity across the buildings? If they're all coming up with their own plan, which is great, they kind of all talk, doesn't necessarily mean they're all going to do it the same way. So how do you ensure that, a student at Con West is getting kind of the same experience as a student at Belvedere?
Right, exactly. So what they had to do is they had to create their plan for their virtual handbook / guide. You can't call it their virtual guide, in which they wrote down what student expectations, teacher expectations, and what the students were going to be facing. They shared them we shared them with everybody. And then they all said, I like that, and they agreed upon one that they could all go with. So that the experience at Con West will be the same as Butcher Green, will be the same as Martin City. As far as what the expectation is, how many times we're going to Zoom, all of those things, how much is going to be, the synchronistic teaching where the kids are logging on at the same time the teacher is, and how much they're going to be able to log in later to do it. And the middle schools did it together as well. And then the high school worked on their plan separately. But they all had some continuity with it so that you will be able to see the ties, even though they have their own personality a little bit with it. I wanted to make sure they had that autonomy to be able to have a little fun too.
Thanks.
Yeah. In addition, we have also created that we're going to have department meetings every other week, let's be on Wednesdays, so that every grade level and department can plan together across the district. So, first grade, where are you at Con West? Well, here's what I'm doing, and those teachers will plan together. That was a really good outcome that came out of the when March when we went virtual. We started having department meetings weekly, and they loved the idea of being able to plan together with across the district as well as just in their own buildings. So we've made sure that stayed a part of what we do. So that's another way we're going to maintain the same place, same time, knowing that kids are receiving the same education. And that is just about I've got other things I can keep talking about, but that's really, that's the bulk of what we're coming up in the next 2 weeks. This will be to get ready for students to come back. We're doing device distribution. We've got all that going out as well. But I really feel everything hinges on these next 2 weeks and what we're able to pull off.
Oh, speaking of device distribution, just thought, I've had a few people ask me if it's a required thing this year. We talked about it at one of our meetings and said it is. People have said it's not clear, so you might want to share that with your administrators that it's not coming across clear to people that it is a required thing this time. Because people are like, I don't need one, I have my own. Like, no, you're gonna have to get one this time. So.
Yeah, and I think the clarity is also making sure that, there are people who have their own device at home, but we're a little bit more, not just that you have one device for 3 different kids, that does every kid have their own device? Well, then here we're going to do this. The other component that we worked on was removing our fees. We had a fee that we always did for our devices. And then we had a long conversation around, again, equity and what are we going to do? And we're actually requiring, we're saying everybody has to have a device, but then we're charging a fee for it. That didn't make any sense to us. So still looking at a variety of different things, but we removed those fees. We changed our insurance costs, so that way if families choose to do insurance, obviously, that's still going to alleviate challenges in terms of paying a full price for a potential damage. So we feel like that's been a whole different thing that we want to communicate as well. So there's several things that we'll be communicating probably, obviously over the next 2 weeks, including the Canvas parent side of all this and how that's going to work and those modules. And then they'll have training when here's your login or here's those things, they'll have to log in and then they'll go through the same thing, all the training modules and things from their standpoint. So certainly a lot of stuff that's going to start rolling out over the next 2 weeks. That's all the maps and the plans for our staff, and then a lot more for our community and for our parents and such. But a lot of information, fire hose coming out. I'll probably do another video more than likely on Monday, and I'll kind of roll out a little bit of that as well, because I like to be at least 1 week ahead of where we are and kind of reminding them of those same things, and I'll make sure to include that as well.
Yeah, I think I saw device distribution starts on the 31st, right? So they probably need to know next week that there isn't to be excited about it. That's good. I'm glad to hear that, and things like that. So awesome, perfect, thanks.
In addition, we took a survey on if they wanted to be blended, or if parents wanted to choose if their student would be distance learning for the first semester. And so one of the questions that was posed by the board member was, did we disaggregate that data? Yes. I know exactly how many kindergartners are chosen to be virtual down to every grade level. And as of right now, and the number still changes because as people are enrolling, some of them are still saying they want to be distance. 1,453 students have chosen to be virtual for the first semester. And that has been, I've broken it down by building and by grade level to know where we're at with that. Obviously, we cannot use Launch for all of those students. That would, one, be a lot of money, and two, we have a lot of full-time teachers that wouldn't have kids. So we're going to use our own students, our own teachers for those virtual classes, and that's going to be going out shortly as they find out how many more virtual teachers we need. Teachers will be decided, do you want to be a complete distance learner teacher for the first semester, or would you like to be a blended teacher? We're going to take that information from teachers, giving them the choice of where they'd like to be, and then as the numbers continue to come in and we continue to disaggregate them, what does that mean for each building? Because it's not going to be clean. It's not going to come out where one building is every grade level has one distance or two distance teachers. So there will be a lot of shuffling and a lot of maneuvering that's going to go on in the next week for my team. As the teachers are getting their professional development, we're working the backside to decide what are these classes looking like and how are we going to make this equitable for all students, no matter what.
Is that instead of or in addition to Launch? So you're going to do both, or you're going to
Launch will be reserved for high school. For mostly classes we do not currently offer. It was going to be upwards of over $4 million to pay Launch for this many kids. Ooh. So obviously not You know, when we were thinking 5 to 10% of our kids, that would, you know, that would have been doable. But now right now we're talking 30%, 30 to 50% of our students, depending on how it plays out with enrollment.
Does that change, that decision change whether or not they could change their mind later to come back?
They can, once they choose to be distant, they cannot go back until semester. But if they've chosen blended and they decide they would like to go distance, we can move them into distance.
So are all those factors, the reason schedules haven't been put into this yet?
Those are one big giant factor. Because once those schedules are in there and the student is actually virtual, we have to go back and remark everything as a virtual.
Yeah, those are certainly, obviously, with anybody, been a lot of different challenges with that being so different than what we're normally trying to do. And then we also have a few challenges in terms of marking it a certain way, so that way DESE knows, and we stay legal with the pieces of that, because their attendance is tracked differently than students who are not, who are planning on being here in person as well. So certainly it just provides some different challenges that we're not necessarily used to having to deal with just quite yet.
And DESE will tell you, we're not quite sure how we're tracking attendance yet on that. I mean, they're still playing with what they're looking at. We do speak to them very frequently about how is this going to look how do we need to record attendance in CORDAP? How will we need to make sure that we're getting our ADA done correctly with that? I can tell you that the class that right now the greatest number of kids choosing virtual is 7th grade for some reason. Over 157 students are choosing virtual in 7th grade.
Out of how many?
That would triple that.
3 times 7.
So it's just interesting, the breakdown and how it worked out. And there's not really one elementary building that is great, has higher numbers than any other building. There are certain grade levels that more have chosen virtual than other grade levels.
Are you surprised by any of that?
Yes and no. I mean, nothing really surprises me anymore.
Because part of it is, I think all is surprising. I mean, I think.
It's like everything and nothing. It's like,
Right.
well, what's next? So,
Yeah.
I mean, when I got these numbers originally, I was like, oh, wow. First I want to know who they were, and I want to know how well did they do in the fall. I mean, in the spring when we were virtual, how well did these students do? And and how do we make sure that we're still getting them and giving them what they need as well. So it's something we take very seriously, is how we're gonna educate these students. I mean, here's what keeps me up at night.
Yeah.
I got 100 kindergartners that say they want to be distant. How do I teach a child to read on Zoom?
Right.
That's what keeps me up.
Well, there's that, and there's the extreme too on the high school side, right? There's a few classes that I don't know how you would do, like shop and, some of those things. How are you gonna schedule those? So they just don't get offered that?
But that's what we're looking to see, is how do we partner with Launch on those kinds of classes? Because they have a way that they have those kind of classes that they're working with. So, and could we come up with a way that, Mr. Young and our new instructor down there, is there a way that they could set up lab times? I mean, there's a lot of factors that are going into this. Anybody can help me, come on.
In terms of dates and coming back to school, what kind of discussion you guys having about that?
As far as students coming on site, we have made a discussion on bringing students in on a rotating basis, our younger students, especially for testing purposes, to see where they are and I'm ready, to really get a firm understanding of that data-wise. We're started talking about that after that 3rd week, bringing them back. But as far as the bringing them back totally, that's on Dr. Rodriguez and the superintendent speaks about where the infection rates are. But we're working to see, can we bring back a class of 5 kids to get on the computers and with the teacher, do some relationship building with the teacher, and then take an assessment there in class so that we can get accurate data on achievement rates.
And so then, Dr. Rodriguez, just, you're just looking at an assessment from the CDC and how well things are going before you kind of pull the trigger, and then you give notice?
Yeah, so what we do is, right now, not only talking to the health department every single week, but there's data that's out there, even, I looked at it today from Mark. And what they do is they're looking at those gating kind of requirements, which is the 14-day positivity rate, looking at the cases per 100,000, those kind of things. And then they're putting out that guidance and showing where those trends are. So as we talk with Jackson County, they want percent positive to be under 15%. And so over the course of the next week, I'm adapting what they've given out, because Jackson County just released some of that stuff of what their recommendations would be about 3 or 4 days ago. So we're taking that, adapting it, and making sure that we have that, so then I can put that out to the community as well and say, these are the numbers that we're looking at. This is what we track, and this is what Jackson County Health Department is telling us. This is what they're tracking before they'll say, this is a good idea to go ahead and do that. But what they have stated is the younger students will come back first, like based upon the numbers, the pre-K through 3rd grade would be your first group that could come back based upon these percentages. Some school districts are just taking that completely, some are modifying it somewhat, but everyone's kind of looking at what's going to be best for their community and their area. So I want to have a more detailed conversation about what the numbers are in Grandview, knowing that our community goes everywhere. But right now, the numbers that we look at are all for Eastern Jackson County. And so sometimes that can be very misleading, obviously, because that's a large area. So if you have 1 or 2 outbreaks in 2 spots that are in the Northeast area, that's going to still contribute to us, but yet our numbers may have gone down completely. So I'm waiting to see how I can get that stuff broken out. But as I track that and I start showing that, and it starts to show a downward trend, since we're having a conversation with Jackson County Health every month, we'd be able to monitor that and say, hey, we're seeing this. We're saying that this is about time, and they would be agreeing with us at that point based upon those numbers. And then we would start slowly bringing our students back and letting our community know.
Okay, thank you.
I had to make an assumption, I'm gonna guess that there's gonna play a role in the fact that we've got Labor Day coming up right as we're starting school, right? And so we're gonna have to look at those numbers for the next 2 to 3 weeks. As, you know, all parties that are probably gonna happen and.
Holidays will be
and
a
things,
problem, yes.
Yeah, so it's
I
terrible
was pretty
time.
proud that we decided that, that we chose that, to go that distance, so that we understood that could happen.
Yeah.
And therefore, we're being proactive about not bringing students, on site to mitigate some of that risk.
I have one more question for you. When we do go back to the hybrid type learning, how do you envision the learning for the students who are in person Monday, Tuesday, and those kids that only go Thursday, Friday? So what happens on Monday, Tuesday for all the kids that are distance learning? Are you gonna have cameras set up? Are there gonna be Zooms within that? How is that gonna happen for those kids that aren't on site but still have to learn that at the same time?
Right. So we've talked about it a couple different ways depending on the grade level as well. Sometimes it will be they can Zoom in at a small group with the students right then. Other times it is they will have projects and things that they are doing outside, and then they will, when they meet with their teacher, it's more direct instruction, and then the project work to show mastery when you're virtual. Teachers will still be checking in, hey, how's it doing? And knowing that we have Canvas, that the communication is just going to be pretty seamless back and forth with them. Students in class will have their Canvas as well as the students outside. So there's going to be, they'll actually be able to communicate with each other, kids who are Tuesday, Thursday, Friday kids with Monday, Tuesday kids. They'll still be able to do some communication as well. So we're not quite sure exactly how that's going to look. It's going to depend a lot on how familiar we get with Canvas, how familiar we get with, how comfortable we are with a camera in the room versus just letting them do the early elementaries have said, I don't want to wait, I don't want to not see my kids for 3 days. I want to make sure I'm still meeting with them in a small group during the day. So they've already planned on how they're going to be able to do that.
Okay. But I think one of the things that keeps me up at night when you talk about that is, from a teacher perspective, trying to teach 2 separate groups of people at the same time, right? I've got some kids sitting in front of me, and I've got some kids at home, and how we do it on the same day.
The idea is not that they would be doing that all the time, it'd be in a small group setting, like, hey, just the 3 or 4 of you, and these 2 that are here with me, and these 3 on Zoom, versus, not like I've got the whole class, I'm trying to lecture,
Right.
trying to keep them, that's not what we had planned.
I think I'm more thinking of how they plan for their days, you know what I mean? So in their mind, they're gonna have to be thinking 2 different things. So I'm gonna be thinking about these kids that are virtual, and I'm gonna be thinking of these kids that are in front of me, and how do I do that? For me, I know that would be something that would look way on me. How am I gonna ensure they're all successful, you know, kind of thing. That's
Yeah, it's weighing on all of us.
Yeah.
How do we ensure mastery, and what does mastery look like?
Yeah.
And how do we define mastery as a district, and it's not just a test score?
It definitely is gonna be unique and to be different. These are the things that not only we're talking about here, but we're talking about with other school districts as well. And learning from each other and learning best practices, but it absolutely is gonna be difficult. I mean, there's nothing about this year that's going to be easy. Everything that we do is going to be different and unique, and we'll have to adapt. There's gonna be some things that we're not gonna be as good at as we wanna be, and we'll have to adapt to it. But we're trying to be as open as we can, but certainly on the front end of this as we possibly can, and then we'll adjust as we need to.
Do you envision this school year ever being able to go back to full-time in person for those that choose to do so?
Well, I have the magic 8-ball app on my phone.
Would you want to do that? I guess that's the question. I'm
Absolutely.
asking.
I 100% want all of our kids back as best we can. If there's a vaccine in November and that makes everybody feel better, and in January we're able to go back because the numbers are back down, I want them all back in. And I don't want a hybrid. I want everybody there all the time. I don't know if that's gonna happen by January. It's possible that we get everybody back in even on a hybrid, and then something happens where we end up having to go back onto a virtual. So we're preparing for whatever scenario. So starting out virtual is at least putting everybody kind of on the same wavelength. And then if we bring in certain groups, even the younger grade levels, we can start to see what that's gonna feel like and look like, and deal with potential challenges. All of you have seen different school districts. We have a couple area districts that are starting on Monday. We know the headlines are coming because we're gonna get the alerts. We're gonna see every headline of every possibility of every positive case, because that's what's selling right now. So that doesn't help us. It makes everybody more afraid and more scared. So it's up to us to make sure that we do everything that we can to show that our schools are safe enough when we do bring them back. So I hope that we can, and I hope that there is a time this year that at least we're all back in. I just don't know when that's going to be. I would love for it to be by late of October, but I don't know.
So if things are going well, even mid-semester, you would consider.
I bring everybody back. Those who have stated that they want a virtual till semester, they're there for semester no matter what.
Right.
But yeah, I would love to be able to bring everybody. I still want to bring everybody back and follow their, the health department and what they've kind of lined out. But what I want and what the numbers show might be 2 completely different things.
Well, in my mind, it was a semester or not, like, we're gonna decide being a semester, and this is what we're doing, and then we're gonna decide this is what we're doing, so.
No, I really hope after the first couple weeks of school that I might be able to bring back pre-K to 3rd grade at least, and start there, and then start slowly building that back up. Obviously, the high school being the last group that we would bring back, but I would love for us to only do that for the first couple weeks of school, and then be able to start bringing back some groups. But we got a long way to go before that can happen.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, any other questions that I could help answer to the best of my ability?
Get your 8-ball out.
Yep.
I don't know if there are any other questions, but I'll jump in and say I'm not the only one that's having a little trouble understanding. At points, at times, it's kind of clear, and then other time it kind of dwindles off and gets real muffled. So if you guys can kind of be a little more aware and just speak up a little bit, that would probably help quite a bit.
Okay.
Sorry, sometimes we have a tendency to talk to each other in the room rather than everybody online.
I was
so.
answering the people who asked the question. So I
Sorry.
will direct it over. Sorry about that.
That's
If I
okay.
can, Mr. Green, let me know.
So are there any other questions or concerns from anyone? And if not, we will move on because I believe this was informational.
Yes, sir.
All right. That moves us down to the graduation requirement adjustment.
So there's a few different things on this board item and a variety of different discussion. I tried to put some history, some of which I was not here for, and then a few things that I had been here for, and some changes that we're looking to make. But rather than me going through it all and providing all the information, I'll turn it over to Mr. Sizemore, if that's okay with you, Dr. King?
Yeah.
Unless you want to.
Go ahead, can you share screen?
So, Mr. Sizemore going to take us through a presentation, and then I know Dr. King's going to have several comments to add to this.
Okay, thank you, Dr. King and Dr. Rodriguez. It's great to see everybody, even if it's virtual. So I wanted to spend just a few minutes tonight just talking about a proposal that is tied directly to the work that the district's been doing over the past couple of years to try to make our high school experience more relevant and individualized for our students. And so that is the math credit change proposal. So just a little bit of background information. As Dr. Rodriguez alluded to, Grandview High School does have a requirement of 4 math credits, and the state of Missouri requires 3. So we do have 1 additional math credit that we require beyond what the state of Missouri requires. In addition to that, we have traditionally also required our students to take geometry and algebra. So the state of Missouri only requires an Algebra 1 course. And so there we're requiring 2 specific math classes beyond what the state of Missouri requires. So that's not a bad thing. I mean, it's fantastic for a student to get 4 math credits and for a student to have geometry and algebra. This isn't at all about saying that that's too much for kids. It's about shifting our focus to being more individualized and meeting the specific needs of our students. So if a student needs 4 math credits and geometry and algebra 2 are 2 of those, then that's fantastic. But if we're requiring a student who has purposely selected a career pathway and wouldn't benefit from a class, then we really have to ask ourselves if we're meeting the needs of those students. So kind of what we've been doing, it's really kind of left over from kind of that legacy era of schools pushing every kid into college, or kind of setting that standard of the only way you can be successful is to go to college. And those of you that have been on the board for the past couple of years know that we in Grandview have been shifting our focus away from that because we know it's not correct. It's fantastic if a student goes to college, and a student can graduate from college and be incredibly successful. But we also know that in our community, there are very good jobs that require more than a high school diploma, but less than a college degree. And if we aren't providing opportunities for those students, then we're not really meeting the needs of all of our students. So really by requiring this kind of same pathway for every student over the past few years, which is Algebra 1 and then geometry, and then Algebra 2, and then requiring them to take some type of math elective, it's really a lot like an assembly line. We're just pushing these students all through the exact same pathway. And again, that works great for those students who graduate, who are looking to go to college or have a career opportunity that really they would benefit from having those additional math credits. But we know that not all of our students want to go to college. And we have a lot of students who they go to college and they're not successful there. And maybe they're going there because they feel like that's the only way to be successful. But if we show them other opportunities and provide them viable pathways, then they are going to take advantage of those, and it's going to help us all achieve our goals. So we know we have a lot of students who they're wondering if high school is really relevant to what they want to do in their life. So they see it as something that just gets you prepared for college. And if that's not what you're interested in, then you don't really see what the connection is between what you're doing in high school and what you want to do when you leave. So this is really an attempt to make sure that we're meeting the needs of all those kids and not just kind of pushing everyone down that same pathway. We know that there are lots of fantastic career pathways that our students can take advantage of and be very successful and have high paying jobs in our community. And as you know, we have been working over the past several years to put pathways in place that allow students to do just that. So last year, it was actually 1 year ago yesterday, we presented this slide to you talking about the career pathways at the high school. And the reason I wanted to show you this tonight is because it's the same story. It's all a part of the plan. This is all a part of that process of moving our math, or moving our high school model to be one that is more relevant and individualized for our students. So in that graphic that I shared with you last year, we talked about 48% of job openings over the next 2 years are projected to be jobs that require more than a high school diploma, but less than a bachelor's degree. And that is kind of at the heart of our goals to individualize the opportunities for our students. So we've been talking about for 3 years, maybe more. Dr. Rodriguez has been talking about and pushing forward Grandview High School pathways. And we have been giving you some updates on some of those pathways, and we have some exciting ones that are starting this fall. And then the Kauffman Real World Learning. So we updated you a couple of times last year on this very exciting opportunity where 15 districts in the metro area are really collaborating and working together to really research and understand how we can better meet the needs of our students, and then putting models in place that do exactly that. So this is all tied to that Grandview High School pathways and the Kauffman Real World Learning work that we've been doing. So if we go back to those 3 students who were a little confused about whether high school was relevant to their future, and we look at what this particular change in proposal will do, it gives us a better sense of why we would want to do this. So we have our first student, and this student is a part of our Pathways to Early College, which is starting this year. Actually, we had 10 students start yesterday, their first day of classes at Longview. So this is an active program. And let's say this student is interested in engineering. Well, what we have in place right now is probably going to work very well as this student moves towards the finish line. Algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2, and some type of math elective are going to be exactly what this student needs in order to be successful. So that's great. Making this change does not prevent this student from getting those things. It just makes it to where the students who need those particular requirements have them, so that we're ensuring that the classes that our students are taking are relevant. So if we look at another student, this student is in our Pathways to Design. This is another pathway that's starting this fall. So a collaboration with Avila, with Center School District, and with Hickman Mills School District. We have 10 students who are going to be getting dual credit through Avila and also getting industry recognized credentials with the Adobe Creative Suite. So with this particular student, geometry is going to make sense. So obviously a design student, geometry is going to be very helpful for a student who is in that career field. The point is that it's relevant to what this student has chosen. So choice is a big part of this, because when students are able to make decisions about what they want to do and the pathway they want to follow to get there, it is going to increase their engagement in the learning environment, which is going to benefit everyone. Algebra 2, maybe that's not going to be beneficial to this design student. Maybe this particular design student is really on the marketing side, and they really want to, when they get out of high school, they want to start their own design firm, or they want to kind of be like a freelance in the gig economy, and they want to know how to run their own business and just kind of do freelance design work. So it might make a lot more sense for this student to take a business math class as opposed to an algebra 2 class. And then that extra math elective. what's going to be more beneficial for this student? An extra math elective that may not be needed for their pathway, or for them to participate in a capstone experience, like doing an internship with a real design firm to help them network with people in their chosen career pathway and to get the experience they need to go to the next level. And that's a part of what this is. When students get to their senior year, they're having to take a math elective that may or may not be beneficial to them. And so we want to make it to where it's purposeful and it's intentional and it's relevant. And that's really, the relevancy is just the key word in all of this. And if we take a look at one last student here, this is our student who is in the Pathways to Advanced Manufacturing. So this is a program that we hope to kick off next year. This time next year, we hope to have at least 10 students enrolled in this program. So this program would be a collaboration with Metropolitan Community Colleges and Honeywell. So it might not make sense for the student to take geometry for Pathways to Advanced Manufacturing. It's going to make a lot more sense for the student to take a technical math class. It's going to be more relevant to them. It's going to help prepare them for what they're going to be doing over the next couple of years. Maybe Algebra 2 is good for them. So that continues to be a class that they would take. But then again, when we get to that senior level, this student is going to be taking a dual credit manual lathe operation class through Metropolitan Community Colleges. And when they graduate, they're going to already be halfway towards earning a certification as a mill or lathe operator. So to us, it's much more relevant and consequential for this student to be able to participate in these types of experiences as opposed to a math class that they likely don't need for their chosen pathway. And I think that that's the real point here is when these pathways are very purposeful. So when we build a pathway, we're collaborating with industry partners and we're asking them, what kind of skills do these students need in order to be successful? And we're helping, for example, with Pathways to Advanced Manufacturing, we have machine tool operators at Honeywell who are actually collaborating with us to develop this curriculum. So we're getting this input. It's not like we're just, deciding what math class a student would need or not. It's very purposeful. But the point is that the student chose that pathway, so it's going to be much more relevant to them. So what it allows us really to do is offer more math classes, more types of math classes. We're not getting pigeonholed into just an Algebra 2 and a geometry, and then there's one class that they can take an elective in. They're able to take math classes, and we're able to develop and offer math classes that are more specific to their exact needs as students. Just today, I enrolled several students from the high school in math classes through the Launch program, trigonometry and calculus and statistics. And those students are choosing those because they're going to be beneficial to them. So just to kind of summarize, when we're looking at that one size fits all mindset, what we're really doing is we're checking off boxes for courses. Okay, this student completed Algebra 1, let's check that off. This student completed geometry, let's check that off. What this allows us to do is to make sure that we're checking off students' plans for success. So it's student-centered. We're checking off that that kid is ready for the pathway that they chose, as opposed to, yes, they met this requirement that may or may not be relevant to their life. And also at the same time, we're helping meet the needs of our community, because if we go back to that 48% of job openings over the next 10 years, needing more than a high school diploma, but less than a bachelor's degree, we're also helping our community by meeting those needs and providing our students with high-paying jobs that benefit the community. So just to kind of wrap up, really what this is all about is flexibility. It's about student choice, which I think is really, really important. And as Dr. King points out all the time, that having our courses and our instruction to students be relevant to them and relevant to the things that they want to do in their life increases engagement and makes sure that they see the connection between the work they're doing in high school and what their next steps are. So that's just a little overview of the proposal, and I'm sure Dr. King or myself are willing to answer any questions that you might have.
It's Don Kessinger. So are we dropping one of the math credits or are we just giving them different choices?
We would no longer have the requirement to be 4 math credits. The requirement, a minimum would be 3 if your pathway dictates that, but we would still stress, if your pathway, it's relevant to your pathway to take 4 math credits, then we definitely need to have 4 math credits. The pathways would be written out and designed with the student, with what they're trying to accomplish. Therefore, like he was talking about those pathways, if that student, if it makes sense to have 4, 5 math credits, that's what they can take. If it makes sense that we're able to have, to get what we need in 3, we don't want to not allow a student to do something like an internship or a capstone because they haven't completed that 4th math credit, if it's not needed. I don't know if I'm answering your question, Dawn. I can go
No.
further.
You have. So my second question is so if we are dropping a math credit, are we also dropping the number of credits they have to graduate by 1?
No,
So what are we adding in that place?
we are adding the opportunity to take further electives that fit in their desired pathway.
Okay, so the reason I asked this, and I don't have any problem with what you're saying, but I have been in the trades industries for 35 years, and one of the biggest problems with students coming out of high school is they can't do math, and it's a big deal. That's why you can't walk into a plumbing apprenticeship program without taking a math test. They won't take you. Same thing with electricians, and they're in need of help big time. So I just don't want to cut the math courses so low that these kids coming out of high school think they're just going to walk into a job without knowing any kind of math. I mean, I was a finisher for 20 years, and there's a lot of math in concrete work. I mean, it's not just putting down a 2x4 and finishing concrete. There's a lot of math to it. You're gonna have to figure your cubic yards and all that kind of stuff. Now, and I say this, I was not a big math guy in high school. Okay, so I understand which direction you're going, but I don't want to downplay the importance of math to these guys that are coming, or guys and gals coming out of high school that don't necessarily want to go to college. I mean, even cooking, there's a lot of math in cooking. I mean, if you want to be a chef. So that's my, I'm fine with the direction you're going. I don't have a problem with that, but like I said, I don't want to downplay it so much that these kids that don't want to go to college think, oh, I can just take basic math and go out here and get me a construction job. It's not going to happen.
And I completely agree with you, and that's the idea of having the pathway and having a plan in place and them truly knowing how relevant it is. I will say, we have had 4 math credits, I believe, since 2001, and we have kids graduating we still are less than 45% proficient in math. Having the math courses themselves isn't going to make us better at math. It's making math more meaningful and relevant to what it is. Taking your case, for instance, if you didn't like math in high school, but when it became relevant in your job, boy, you sure learned it. I mean, that's kind of where we are. I'd like them to understand how relevant it is for their path in life and what they're going to need. Dr. Regas, you want to add?
Yeah, that's the thing, is the connection. And again, I was brought up in administration in a certain way that certainly was a proponent of a lot of these, but we can't always connect the number of credits with rigor and with the outcomes necessarily, because some of our outcomes we weren't getting a lot of the outcomes that we were looking for when we had 28 credits. When I came into this district and had 28 credits, we made the change based on recommendations from the high school and went to 26 credits. So these are the kind of changes that even when we have the number of credits, it's not about that. So our hope is that we have the flexibility now to do those capstone experiences, to do those internships, to do something that's relevant. That first conversation that I had with Dr. Price several years ago was around students that had gaps in their schedule and they're graduating early because they had nothing else to do. This gives them an opportunity that's going to be, again, a pathway designed for what their interests are, and then we design that around there. So it might just be, it just gives them flexibility to take a math class that's going to be relevant for their pathway. And hopefully that will provide a little bit more incentive as opposed to us mandating 4 credits, which hasn't provided the outcomes that we were looking for.
And Mr. Sizemore, you have something you'd like to add?
Well, I just wanted to say that I think Mr. Kessinger makes such an important point. And I think it all goes back to the intentionality. So the way the pathway system works, students start exploring these opportunities in 8th grade. And by 9th grade, they're really choosing like a broad career field. And they're already starting to interact with professionals and industry partners. So when they start taking math classes that can be more tailored to those specific trades, they're going to see the value in it. Because I agree, I was just like you. I also did not like math. And when I got out of the high school, I went in the Navy and became an electrician. And yeah, I had to catch up because I didn't see any reason why I would need math. And I never would have thought that as an electrician that I would have needed math. I just didn't know that because nobody ever told me. But if I were in high school and somebody were leading me down that path and saying, hey, if you want to do this job, you're going to have some very specific math skills. And here's a class that's designed to give you those specific skills as opposed to, very broad kind of a math course. I think that kids are going to find that interest a lot more. And as we do this work with all these other districts, and we're collaborating with all these other, experts around the country, it's all about really creating flexibility for our kids and to be able to participate in these kinds of programs. We just have to make sure that we can tailor it to those, individual students. And a lot of the districts around us, they kind of have an advantage at this point with those programs because the vast majority of them have a 3 credit requirement. So when they get to the senior year, they have more time in their schedule to be able to devote to going somewhere outside of school, which often will require you to have a double block. So you're not going to get to go to Avila or to go to Cerner. We have students that go to Cerner and just go for 1 block. It's going to be a good chunk of the day. So you have to have those sections available. So I just wanted to say that, Mr. Kessinger, I identified 100% with what you said. And I think that this helps solve that issue.
Yeah, again, I think that's the one misnomer that I would say that even I was kind of brought up to even believe was just that the number of credits was going to equal rigor. And that's not been the experience. And the things that I've seen that have been the most successful is making sure, as Dr. King has said, that we make it as relevant as possible to the kids. And if that pathway is going to be relevant, again, this is the direction our district has gone with full support from the board. And I certainly this is why we're at the spot that we are. This is going to finally give us a little bit more flexibility, but again, tying it directly to their interests and their pathway, and doing exactly what everybody has said tonight. But that is something that I don't think that we always think about. Is we think the number of credits means that if there's more rigor, and that's not been the case.
So with this new plan, what minimally is every Grandview High School student going to have for math to graduate? What class?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Can somebody repeat the question, please?
Yeah, her question is, what exactly will we require of students to take?
What classes, not how many?
Yeah, they have to take an EOC. They have to take a math EOC class, end of course exam. That has to be Algebra 1 or Algebra 2. If they take Algebra 1 in the 8th grade, they're going to have to take Algebra 2 to get their EOC credit in high school. If they don't take Algebra 2 and if they don't take Algebra 1 until high school, they could take Algebra 1 and get their EOC there. So what it's doing is it's freeing up the opportunity for what those advanced math classes could be. And it actually allows us to offer more math classes, business math, technical math, actually, drill down and create math classes that will do what we need them to do along the way. So technically, Algebra 1 would be the only required class you have to take. However, knowing that we do want to continue pushing Algebra 1 to the 8th grade, when our students are ready for it, Algebra 2 would become the requirement if that's the case. That makes sense?
Yes. Thank you.
So given that then, to piggyback on that, were there discussions around keeping it as 4 credits, but opening it up to whatever it is they want to take other than that one? Because I think one of the things it said was geometry being required was not necessarily the right thing. So I guess I'm concerned a little about the message. I understand what you're saying about number of credits as equal rigor, but the message that it sends to say, well, I need fewer math credits, and I get where it's opening it up, but could it still be, I need 4 math credits, but it can be any of these things, and maybe even expand what that looks like. So it's maybe practical hands-on math, like I'm going to one of the schools and I'm kind of getting sort of math in this class kind of thing.
So what you're talking about is embedded credits, which we would be moving toward. Being able to embed credits is being able to say, I got this project that I'm working with a client on in a business. And what I'm actually doing is I have to create a presentation and do a write-up, and I'm having to do a lot of math along the way. And our teachers did see they're getting all of the standards from an English class, from a social studies class, and from a math class, and I've embedded that credit, and I'm able to give a student that credit as we move forward. That's called competency-based instruction, and that's the direction that we are headed toward. But that's going to take a while to get there. But we are looking at how we start embedding credits in what they're doing, because we know no discipline stands in isolation. They're all intertwined, and we have to start recognizing how that works in the real world. You use ELA, your writing skills, your math skills, you use everything in your career. And we want students to begin to recognize that and to be able to see that. We can still say 4 credits, but we haven't freed up I'm giving you a doctorate, Mr. Sizemore. He's supposed to get that this year. Giving them that ability to take that capstone class, where there is going to be math embedded, because it's in there, it's whatever they've learned that's been relevant in their coursework. They take it and they use it in that capstone, which could be a client project. It could be going to a business and working with that business using those math skills. I'm embedding credits, that right there. I'm just not calling it right now embedded credit.
So we've talked a lot about a huge need for this is those that are not going on college pathway. What about those that either are or don't know? Does the number of credits, is that going to affect potential acceptance into various colleges? Are they going to look at that?
They look at math, they look at your math credit. You usually have to take a course to get in, like a test. Like if you're going to test out of algebra, college algebra or whatever else, you should take a math competency test when you enter into college as well. So they would still be taking that. Their ACT scores are still, that's still going to be relevant. In a few years, I don't know how relevant ACTs are going to be as well. Most colleges are not looking at how many math credits were given in high school. They're looking at what can they do once they get to college.
And what the number of credits is still 3, and that is the state requirement. So therefore, that's what a lot of the colleges are looking at, is that you met the state requirements. So even our area districts, whatever district that you consider to be academically, fantastic in that regard. I mean, you've got Blue Springs, you've got Independence, you've got Center, you've got Lee Summit, you've got all, they all require 3 credits as well. Now they may have a college or a higher diploma, this is the diploma plus, or this is, whatever the case may be. Ours are pathways, but all of them have a standard requirement of 3 math credits, because that's what most colleges even would look at. But if a college is, if you're looking at a specific degree plan, it would go back to, I want to be an engineer, I want to do this kind of engineering. Well, then you're going to have to take these extra math classes, because that's what's going to help you get into college for that particular degree plan.
I I think we need to partner with parents a lot on those students that are still trying to figure out where they are in life and what do I want to do? And the parents have a part of this plan as well, is I want you to have this, I want you to have this experience. And so I'm going to have you do this. This is going to be part of that partnership that we have with parents as well as with the students themselves on their choice. I think it's what Mr. Sizemore said is we have kids wanting to register in trig and statistics and calculus and calc 2. The students want to take those if it's relevant to them. They're seeking it out. We don't offer that. We've had to contract with Springfield Public Schools to be able to offer that for them, and we're glad to do it. I see this as a way that we can increase that. If you're excited about it, we're going to make sure you have it. If you're not excited about it, I'm going to give you something that's going to make you excited about math and its relevance, and you're going to want to do it more.
So when Mr. Sizemore was talking, he was talking about the students that were on various pathways, and the number that stuck in my head was he said, oh, I have 10 students doing this, and I have 10 students doing that. I'm adding that up in my head, that doesn't add up to our number of students. So how do you have recommendations then for those, like I said, that don't know what they want to do? I don't know if I'm going to college or not. I don't know what pathway I want. My son's a prime example. He has no clue what he wants to do. And we've talked about it a million times and he just doesn't know. And so what's his pathway? What classes did he take?
Freshman?
No, he's gonna be a junior. That's the one thing that scares me.
That is, okay, my eyes just got really big.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's definitely, okay, write his name down.
Yeah.
Well, let me say this, the exact same thing. I mean, I have a son as well. So she just mentioned, talking about partnering with parents. And I think part of this whole pathway development that we said from the very beginning was that it can't start in high school.
No.
Now, unfortunately, as I said before, and some of the reasons why we have to move faster is another graduating class is going to be walking across whatever virtual stage that we have, or real stage in May. And we are going to have to look at ourselves and say, did we prepare everybody walking across that stage for a pathway after they leave us, or did we not? And so those conversations have to start way earlier. Now, again, that doesn't mean that you are forced into whatever you decided as a sixth grader. My daughter has known what she was going to do for a long time. My son's going to be a sophomore and he has no stinking clue. So I agree with that, but they would still take some basic math credits. They're still going to take the Algebra 1 and they're still going to take an additional math. And so they're still going to be on a path that wouldn't be like, well, we lost you, so now you're in trouble. They still have 3 math credits, which will still get them into college. Our hope is that even by the senior year, that we have developed what they're interested in, and then we can still surround them with, here's the potential internship, or here's a couple other pieces that you can now go and do that's going to get you into this particular program. But it's still exposing them to some of those pathways and making sure that they have a better understanding of what they do want to do when they leave us. But it has to start earlier, and we have to get better at it quicker than what we are. But we're still going to have some students that are going to be just that same way. It's like, I just have no idea. We just keep exposing them to as many pathways as we possibly can so they get a better sense of, well, I know, I like to do that. I mean, I would like to do 2 things when I was a senior. I really like playing around with computers and music. So I picked music. I mean, that's just kind of the nature of it. So I don't know that I was a good example of that exact same thing, except that I really wasn't sure. But I knew I had a couple interests. And so tying it to their interests the best we possibly can, and then saying, well, here's some, let's expose you to some of these particular courses and some of these pathways so you get an idea. Oh, no, you didn't like that. Okay, let's make a shift over here. But it has to happen sooner and it has to happen more often.
When would you envision this going into effect? This school year?
Help as many students as we can now. What do we need? What are they still doing? Sorry. It's so hard.
Louder.
I'm trying to make sure I don't like.
And I feel like I'm yelling. I apologize to everyone in the room.
So I'm like, this will go into effect. We're still gonna, kids who need 4 math credits are gonna have to take 4 math. Kids who need 5 are gonna take 5. It's just gonna help those students that we know that that's not where they need to be. They need 3 and then some experience. Now, I want to ask you, have you seen your son's ICAP, his individual career and education plan?
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah, let's talk. Did you guys survey at least the high school, middle school local math departments and get a sense of their thoughts on this topic?
I can tell you, I know the high school is where this recommendation, came from.
Okay.
I don't know Dr. King maybe can answer that. I know that I've been here long enough to where the conversations that I've had with the math department were frustrations that I've heard over the years of students just being forced to take an extra class. They didn't care, they didn't want to take that fourth class, but they're forced into that. And so we kind of, again, it's not about rigor, but then because they don't care, but they have to take this fourth class, nobody wants to teach that fourth class. Because no one really wants to be there. It's just, it's a check mark in a box that I have to do for a requirement. So I'm glad because I graduate, but there's no vested interest in it having anything to do with what I want to do. It's just a check mark on the box. So that it's definitely an evolution in terms of several years of I've heard those same concerns and frustrations from individuals from the math department overall. I don't know if there was a formal poll or not, but I do know, again, our goal was everybody at the high school that we talked to, and certainly the team leads and things, we believe in the pathway models. And so our goal is everything that we do, how do we continue to align to our pathway? If this aligns with it, why are we not doing that? And several changes that I think we'll continue to make if we find something else that's like, why are we doing that? Because that's an old way of thinking, and that's not the way that we're doing this. I'm sure if we did poll, there would probably still be some that would disagree, and would think the same conversation that we've had. No, 4 is better. We're lessening the standards. It's going to make things worse. But we've not seen a rigor increase since 2001 when we made the changes in terms of math overall.
I can tell you one of our math teachers is on our Kaufman pathway lead, our pathway lead for the math and technical part. So he's been aware of this shift that we're trying to make.
And the 3 credits are in high school, or if they take Algebra 1 in 8th grade, that counts as well?
3 in high school.
So really you're just talking potentially not senior year.
Correct.
So there's 3 in high school.
Correct. They have to have 3 in high school. They have to have 3 high school credits in their 8th grade. If they take Algebra 1 in 8th grade, it does not count as a high school credit.
So then you're looking at Algebra 2, geometry, something.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. The goal is to replace put Algebra 1 at the 8th grade level for the majority of students. We've taken it off. They have to meet certain requirements now to take Algebra 1 in 8th grade now, the scores and those kind of things. And so and every year we hope to increase the number of students who are eligible to take Algebra 1 as we get better at math instruction.
Okay, we had a question. Was this to take place based on the vote tonight immediately?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
you bet.
Were there any other questions?
I do have one, or I have a couple thoughts, but I am concerned as well as having the 4 credits. Have no problem with making Algebra 1 the one and only required. My concern is definitely just with going with what Don had said, Kessinger, as far as needing that math. That does concern me that because I know exactly what will happen because I have a senior that would have done it. If she wouldn't have had to have a 4th credit, she wouldn't have taken one. So that is a little concerning me that then their senior year, there'll be several that will opt out of no math. One of the things that also concerns me is are our counselors and our math teachers, are they prepared? Are they equipped and prepared to basically help each one of these students? Because yes, there are going to be some that have parents that are going to help them, direct them, lead them through what maybe they need to do. But my experience is a good majority of those parents are doing good to just survive themselves, let alone help their kid get through classes. And so I guess I totally agree with this layout, the pathway. I totally agree. I've got 3 different children, not requiring geometry and the next, requiring those things. would have been beneficial for my two oldest ones. One's engineering, one physics. So having these options to take additional classes would have been extremely beneficial for them. Options were not there. On the other hand, then I have another one that she's going definitely a different pathway. So math, having 4, but it did require her then her senior year to take one. And then she was in a class and she had to take a 4th class, basically take one with freshman and sophomore just to get the fourth credit done. So I definitely have both avenues, but my concern is, are our counselors and our math teachers prepared to help these kids? Because I agree with Monica, there's going to be some that don't have a clue, don't know, don't want to decide, are just winging it for every day. And that's my concern, since we don't have that structure. Do we have those teachers? Are they prepared to do that?
So Amy, what we've implemented for next year with Dr. Butler is part of this advisory program that we've revamped, and it's called WIN, W-I-N, What I Need. And we are actually, how do we use an advisory to do just what you're saying? How do we have this important relationship between a teacher and students, that they know those students and build those relationships so well that they know exactly what they need and when they're going to need it, and are able to advocate for the child and help the child when in absence of a parent advocating for the child or the child themselves. It's just one more layer to really help the child hone in on, what do you really want to do with your life? How can I make this happen for you? Here's what you need to have. This is what you need to take. So that we're not just relying on the math teachers, or we're not just relying on the counselors to be able to do that. We now have an extra layer, if that helps.
So are the math teachers and counselors prepared? I understand the advisory. I understand they get now a grade for it, which that's a whole nother opinion that I have on that. But because not everybody's going to jive with their advisor, not everybody's going to jive with their count. I just want to make sure that everybody is on board for this, because I think it is extremely important.
Math teachers are prepared for teaching students. Is that what you're asking, or teaching different courses?
Well, definitely teaching different courses. I hope that we are prepared for that, but help guiding these kids and giving them. I just want all 3 on board with that, because it is important. Some will connect with their counselor better. And there's some, I've had one kid that connected with their counselor, and that counselor just, was able to give all kinds of details. I had another student that, connected with their advisor better. So I get all that. So I'm just wanting to make sure that everybody on those 3 levels, because the counselor needs to be more than just, I'm just asking if they're all on board.
Yes, ma'am, they are all on board. And if you've met Dr. Butler, I think you'll have a conversation with her, 1 or 2. I think she's actually listening on live stream right now. So I've received several messages from her. Hi, Dr. Butler. She's saying, yes, we will make sure every student has a path, and every student knows exactly what they need, and they will have a significant relationship with more than one person in that building.
I would also add, we have 2 brand new counselors at the high school, so it might be a little hard for us to gauge today, as of August 20th, that everybody is 100% able to be up to speed. But we certainly have, not only one veteran counselor there, but also A+ coordinator that's also tasked as part of this conversation as well, that are definitely on board with that piece. And so, as to your point, there needs to be more than just 3 counselors and 3 people that are talking to these students about what's going on with their pathways and encouraging them. So the more people that we can put in front of them that can have that conversation, and it's not just on 3 counselors to try to do the yeoman's work around class. It's several people investing in our students along the way so that they get a better sense of what's going on.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Maybe I don't know if it's a question, maybe it's a comment, but how how does not having this prevent someone in the pathway from achieving that goal if they're already on that pathway and they can select what they want? Does having that extra credit actually impact them in a negative way? If they can choose what they want?
Having the extra math credit?
Yeah, because it seems like if you're on a pathway, you're good. You can take an advanced math class if you want. It seems that if you're not in the pathway or you opt out to just the 3 requirements prior to graduation, the impact to that student is their entrance criteria for college. It seems like that's the only impact or negative impact that I would see, because if you're in a pathway, you should be good to go anyway.
As far, the only thing with what, to Mr. Sizemore saying is if I can go and have an internship, sometimes I have to double block that. And so by having required to take another math credit, I may not be able to then take an advantage of an internship or a client project that's gonna have to double block me.
Okay.
With that. But obviously, if the 4 math credits benefits the student and benefits the pathway, that will be pushed and that will be done. If there's no benefit to taking that 4th math credit, and I can implement something else and embed some math into a client project, that they're actually utilizing the skills that they've learned to apply it to something, it would be better off for the student.
And when did you say the children, the students choose the pathway in middle school?
Yeah, at the end of their 8th grade, before they go into their freshman year, they choose a pathway that they're in. Now, they can change because students do sometimes want to change their mind.
Yeah, I'm not, I'm trying to, I need to get more inclined to what that process is. Because I think when I was helping my son with enrolling in his classes, I wasn't familiar what pathway he had chosen. And so not knowing if we're on the right track or not, it'd be interesting to know what his is.
We definitely need to get better at promoting and how we do this and involving parents in our plans. Definitely.
And this is my 5th year as superintendent. So it's been the past 4 years that we've been working on building toward this. And last year was the first year of freshman classes kind of going forward with that premise. But 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we started career exploration back in the elementary schools to expand upon that, expanding some of the other things that we did in Project Lead the Way. So we've done several things along the way, but it's really only been in the last year and a half that we've been able to really start formalizing, putting this over at the high school and what that looked like. So it's not lost on me that we're not there where we want to be, but certainly we should still be a little bit closer, and I think it's going to get a lot closer as we over the course of this year and the next year as well. You'll see more of a move toward that.
But like for my kiddo, who's a junior, I don't know that he necessarily has this because it wasn't rolled out before him coming into the freshman year, right? So for him, I think having this path is not, it's gonna be more for my younger son as he comes through and the people that are just now going into high school at this point. So I guess, so in follow-up to that, how do you see this affecting the juniors and seniors that aren't necessarily on a path that they've designed their coursework from the get-go?
I definitely think we have challenges there, but that's where the relationship comes with advisory, is I never want to just say, oh, sorry, juniors, seniors, you didn't get it, how bummer. I want to make sure that they feel supported and a path. Yeah, it's probably not going to be as smooth as if you come in as a freshman, we expect your experience to be completely different than maybe the senior this year or the junior this year. But it is imperative on us that we still reach every child, because as Dr. Rita said, he doesn't want to have kids walk across the stage that don't have a path, that don't know what they're doing, that don't have a plan outside of school. So if there are students still, and I know there are students that I still don't even know what I want to do, but have I given you as many opportunities to explore as many different things as you can before you walk across that stage and you still have no idea and you go play video games in your mom's basement? We don't want that, so we want you to feel like you have a path or a plan, and are excited about it and are invigorated and have that self-efficacy that I can do this. And that's on what we do in school. It starts well before high school, but it is imperative on our high school that we should make this shift of, it's not about them just going through and checking off classes and thinking they're ready for life. It's about making sure that it fits them and it fits their path and it fits what they need so that when they leave, we can sleep at night going, I have given them every opportunity to, and we're not there yet. We're not there. We have to do more, we have to do better.
Passion is good.
I do have an additional question. As far as speaking of with the advisory and now having a credit, is my understanding, or have I misunderstood that advisory is now a class that's taking up a credit for the day?
Correct.
Okay, so now we've eliminated one opportunity for these kids to take a class, a math class, an additional pathway class. We've eliminated that opportunity though.
I don't look at it that way, Amy. I look at what we haven't eliminated, we've given them the advisory class. An advisory class is gonna look very much different than any advisory that they have ever done before. So I'm gonna send you a link. It's called To Big Picture Learning, and that is who we're partnering with as far as how we're planning out our advisories and how advisories are gonna be so much more relevant and user-friendly to both teacher and student. It's no longer just a canned lesson that we're gonna push out to all kids in advisory. It's truly about building a relationship and understanding how that advisory teacher, which they will have over their entire high school, if it's a mutually beneficial relationship, is going to help shape that high school experience for the student. So I feel that it is worthy of a credit because what we're asking them to do, they're going to be creating portfolios in there. They're going to be creating plans for resumes and what they're going to do and how they're using that time to reach out to people in the field that they're interested in, having guest speakers come and to talk about all these different pathways and different careers that are going to be available to them. Things that we haven't even thought of yet in terms of careers. That is all part of that advisory that is going to be going on, and it is worthy of a credit. And we are hoping that Sunday we can actually start embedding some of those standards in the core classes into that advisory as well when they complete projects and so on.
So how's that affected though maybe some theater kids, some choir, some band kids that now have to choose? Because that's the concern I have, because they're going to have to give something up. Something's going to have to go.
Correct. They will have to choose something that's very relevant to their chosen career pathway.
But they may not know. I know a student that got a sizable scholarship for theater, but she may not have been able to have that opportunity. So I guess that is a very concern if we are taking a credit away from them. I get that they're going to learn something, but I do see the opportunities outside of that may be taken away, really. I do think of it as taking it away.
Next year, we actually have pathway to the performing arts as well. So going back to what you talked about with the kiddo that's got the theater, we're going to offer that as a pathway, and that will fit into their advisory and to their math or what. I mean, we're not talking about taking away a credit. We're talking about relieving them of a fourth math credit if it doesn't fit their pathway, that they are able to then take up anything else. Band, choir, Project Lead the Way. The idea is that we free up time within the day, using with the modified block scheduling, that they're actually going to be able to not limit them in taking classes. It is never the goal or the intent that we would take kids away from things. It was to offer more opportunities for students that are relevant to them.
Yeah, we have students right now that obviously you can't take everything. No matter what we do with any schedule, you can't take everything. But I don't believe that this is going to severely limit any of our students. They're still going to have multiple opportunities to take multiple classes and not have to specifically choose.
Dr. Butler says they do not have to choose.
Okay. We've gone on this for quite a while. Is this something that we need to either I think we've kind of talked about it quite a bit, but if we need to set this to the side and have a much further discussion on it, one, I want to say that we probably need to take a break. I know I do. And two, hopefully for future reference, we have these questions and the things that we talk about ahead of time so we can knock some of this stuff out. But is this something that we need to discuss a little bit later? Because it seems to have generated quite a lot of discussion, which I would have thought, like I said, would have come early and we could have prepared a little bit better for this. So do we need to put this on the side as a table discussion and put it on another meeting or a workshop? Or is this something that we need to get to tonight to make sure so we can implement, or what? I need to get some feedback here.
Who are you looking for the feedback from? The board or the cabinet?
Both, because if it's something that you are looking to implement right now, which it sounds like it is, then we need to discuss this, and we can just continue after we take a short break. If not, and it sounds like it needs more discussion, then we as board need to figure out what time we can set up to really discuss this, so that we can hammer out whatever questions or issues that we may have. Oh.
This is Don Kestner. I'm good with it. You know, the explanation was fine, so that's my 2 cents. I'm good with it.
Okay. Thank you, Don.
I don't need any more discussion. I'm good.
Me neither.
I didn't hear a word either one of you said other than
They're good.
I said I'm good.
Okay. And I'm not, like I said, again, I'm not trying to press anyone any kind of way. It's just a matter of, it's an ongoing conversation. Evidently, it's important. I want to make sure it gets due, time and justice to whatever needs to be done to answer any and all questions.
Feedback from cabinet?
Like I said, it's entirely up to the board. We believe that we've laid it out. Certainly, we can provide additional information if there's additional information that the board needs to feel comfortable. I don't ever want to push something that is not going to get the recommendation. So it seems like so far that obviously there's still some additional concerns that I think we would have no matter what. And I think we can absolutely have additional conversations, as Dr. King said, certainly with Ms. Blankenship, and we can sit down and work on a couple of those things just to make sure that everybody kind of understands. But it seems like overall everyone's okay, but we're happy to do with whatever the board chooses.
Well, I'm still waiting to hear from a couple other board members. Amy, do you have any more questions, or have they been addressed properly, or do you need some more? And Dawn as well, and Chuck.
My questions have been answered. I do have a concern about, a couple things, but it's not really a concern that would keep me to delay this. I do wish this would have come sooner. I kind of hate that we decided to bring this to us, a couple weeks before school's going to start. I do think that wasn't real great timing. But I understand the pathway. I think it's a good pathway. I do hesitate with not requiring the 4th credit, but that's the concern as a parent.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm okay with reducing it to 3 credits.
Okay, thank you, Chuck.
Everyone here has already commented to you, sir.
All right. Well, if that's it, then I believe we're at a point where, I guess before we take a short break, we can put this to a vote. I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve modifying the current graduation requirement, math credit requirement from 4 to 3, and eliminate the requirement that all students take geometry.
James Green, I second the motion.
Been properly moved and seconded, we approve modifying the current graduation requirement, math credit requirement from 4 to 3, and eliminate the requirement that all students take geometry. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Amy Blankenship,
Yes.
Chuck Hornforth,
Aye.
Don Foy, aye. Damon Green,
Aye.
Don Kessinger,
Aye.
Monica Terry,
Aye.
Leonard Green.
Aye. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you very much. And as far as a break, is everyone good with let's say 8-minute break? Figure split the
That'll work.
difference between 5 and 10. All right, we will be back at 8:48. I know that's cheating, but it's close enough. Thank you.
Okay.
right, looks like we're back.
Gotta do it right now.
Okay, close to back.
Maybe I didn't.
We are coming back, sir.
Yeah. So because we just need to have topics on the order. Yeah.
Good to go? All right, well, we'll move on to workforce excellence, the employee exit survey data.
Yes, this is something that we bring to the board every single year and review a little bit of information. So you see the background of the item, and I'm going to ask Ms. Deanna to take us through a little bit of that information tonight.
Okay, thank you. I'll bring up that.
Oh, excuse me.
You will recall, for those of you who have been around for a while, that we do an exit survey with employees every year. You will see the data in front of you that we have shared regarding this year's exit survey, which really mirrors very well what we've seen in the past. However, for a lot of reasons, we did not have the responses, the number of responses we would have liked. You can probably guess some of those reasons, but we did send reminders to folks, and they were disconnected and preoccupied with the pandemic that was emerging. So we certainly will try our best to get more data next year, but I will say that it still reflects what we have seen in the past. And I know you see this and you've gone through it. Typically, that will shift the participants certified and classified from year to year. Talks about why they're leaving and where they're going. And those are fairly typical answers as well. We look at the feedback about items that they would like to change in Grandview. We share that with any departments or administrators that may be related related to those comments. We look at leadership, and as you can see, we think that's very good. Leadership, 85% did not have an effect on why they're leaving, but we still like to get some of those reasons why they did leave, and if it was leadership. And we work on that in cabinet, and we work on that with our administrators, give them that feedback. You can see that goes through there. Got some feedback on some other reasons that people might be leaving. Really pleased with the discipline response, whether that affected their decision to leave the district. Clearly not significantly. And that has been the case for the last few years as well. This year, I believe it's as high as it's been since we started doing exit surveys. So that's a good thing. Policies, you'll be pleased to know that your policies do not affect them greatly and their reasons to leave. And you can see that the responses about why they are leaving are typically retirement or moving for another job, sometimes geographically, or spouse was transferred. Sometimes it's a better opportunity. Then we get feedback about what they would suggest that the district provide that benefits its employees. We look at all of those, and we share that data with the Grandview 10 and the Grandview 8 groups when we start meeting this year. So that's an overview. I know you've seen all of this prior, so if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
You said there were 13 responses. How many people were invited to respond?
There were about 58 people that were invited to respond, and that happens all throughout the year. So when someone separates from us, we send it then. We don't wait till the end of the year and hope that everybody responds at the end of the year.
Like she said, I think you looked at it, but obviously this last piece, part of the board paid health which continues to be something that we tout, that Grandview 10 continues to support, as well as Grandview 8. But you see it's on there several different times. Insurance, great medical, dental, insurance for full-time staff, good health and well-being benefits, health insurance, great pay, insurance. I mean, it's a lot of all of those things that we know. It's one of the reasons why we're still very proud of the process that we have and the things, but again, it's supported by the board. And so those are still something that I think sets us apart for from a lot of districts.
All right.
So, you mentioned that you kind of pass on some comments and things. What are some of the actions specifically that you take with regards to some of these? Because some of these comments are very specific. So what are some kinds of things that you do when you receive comments like this?
If it involves safety or facilities or things like that, we work with Ms. Cook and her departments and facilities to try to sometimes track some of this back, because sometimes it's specific, like you see here, and sometimes it's not. So we do have to try to figure that out if that comes. If it's building specific, we would funnel that through Dr. King, and she would work with the specific administrator to kind of evaluate how accurate this is, what we can do to ameliorate it, or ways that we can improve that. Does that answer your question, or did you need more? Okay. And if it was something very, very specific, obviously we preserve names and so forth. But we want to give you all that data. But if it's something really, really specific, certainly we go to that person directly and try to help them with that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Were there any other questions, concerns? All right. Well, if that's it. I believe this was also informational, and we can move on to the next topic. Kelly, Educational Services, sir.
Yeah, so we have, we partnered last year and a half now, or 2 years.
This is going on our third year.
This is going on our third year. So we try to provide this at the end of the year. Obviously, a few things prevented us from doing so. So we wanted to, again, bring that to the board, make sure that you saw an update there. So we'll ask Ms. Deanne to take us through that.
Sure. I think we have a PowerPoint that you have seen, but we will go through that, and I will, as we kind of scroll through that, I'll just point out some different things that you may or may not see embedded in that, because I know you've seen these before. But just informationally, almost half of the open positions are filled within an hour of being entered into the software program. Almost 75% of our jobs are filled within the first 24 hours. Absences in the district this year increased by about 25% over the last 2 years, at least through the month of February, because obviously after the month of February, we didn't have the same kind of data. So Kelly filled 670 more requests this year than they did in the previous year, through the same time, of course, through February. Teachers account for most of those subs filled. They do provide paraprofessional fills for us as well, but those are a little harder to fill because the same requirements are needed to be a para as it is to be a substitute, and the pay is greater to be a substitute teacher. The elementary schools saw the highest number of absences last year at over 50%. Kelly filled those at an 83% rate, and the high school saw the highest fill rate at 95%. The major factor in the difference in fill rates was the better overall advance notice of absences seen from the high school as compared to the elementary schools. That's broken down a little bit. You can look at that on the fills by school slide. PDO is the largest category of reasons for absence. That includes sick time. And for the upcoming year, the things that Kelly is highlighting and glad to see happen, that the state of Missouri has suspended for this 1 year at least, the 550-hour rule for retired teachers so they can sub as many hours as they can this year. And Kelly is promoting this and expects some more committed tasks to be filled or subs to be filled for next year. The other thing that DESE has done, which we are glad to see, is that they've improved a new entry pathway for folks that would like to sub, which requires them to take a training course to become a substitute teacher and not just the 60 hours of college credit, which I applaud DESE for doing because we know that they're at least going to get trained in some pedagogical training for being prepared to be a teacher and not, as you can imagine, not everybody with 60 hours is really prepared to go into a classroom and teach. So I know Dawn can attest to that. So we are very pleased that that is occurring, and we hope that they are more. Some people are more suited to the classroom when they come. Kelly's got a big marketing campaign to try to gather some new candidates because of that, and so they're very excited that they hope to increase their pool, and the pool already is larger this year than it was last year. That could be a result of the economic environment that we are currently in. So they're feeling very confident about staffing, which I suppose, they should, and we want them to, and hope that they can help us this year even better than they have in the past. Happy to answer any questions that I can. Keith would typically be here to go over all of this with you, so I'm trying to stand in his stead tonight. But we all felt that, adding the minimum of folks around it was the best thing to do. And for economic time.
I know the retirement thing is a temporary because of the pandemic. Is the other change it from DESE permanent or just?
At this time, yes.
Yeah, my guess is that the changes from DESE are probably going to stick. My guess is that there was when the State Board of Education made that vote, there was 1 or 2 dissension votes and just concern that it would lead to maybe a lesser quality. So it's possible that they revisit that, but they've not given any indication that they're not going to make that permanent. So
You're not saying they're going to make the retiree thing?
no, that part's strictly going to be a 1 year. I would be shocked even if this continues into the next year that they would do it again.
Right, PSRS probably wouldn't continue to support that, but I don't know.
Leonard, did you hear those questions? I see it looks like you're straining a little.
Didn't hear a word.
I tried to repeat kind of my answer with the question built in.
Sorry, I'm trying to talk.
The question was just around which are some of those extra requirements or those revised requirements going to be permanent? Do we think that those are going to be permanent after this next year? So as far as we know, yes, but with the exception of the retirees and PSRS, we do not believe that that will be something that will last more than just 1 year.
Thank you. All right, with that, are there any other questions or comments? If not, I believe this is informational as well, and we can move on. Next up, resource stewardship and organizational efficiency, purchase of the disinfectant lighting system.
Yeah, so again, I alluded to this as part of our process in COVID-19 and the updates in the superintendent's report, and certainly send out a little more information to the board around this item. So try to make it as brief as possible, but we want to make sure that we highlighted this as part of our response to what's happening in the world. So Ms. Cook, you want to take us through this?
Yes, hopefully I'm speaking loud enough. You all know how soft spoken I am usually. So, we've been working with Ms. Brantley as Sodexo Facilities Manager, and she's had concerns about our ability to respond in a timely manner when we do have a positive case. We've had some instances where we've had to do some reactive cleaning, and golly, we haven't really had very many staff on board. Right now, we have two options. We can call ServPro to respond immediately, or she does have a team of custodians that have agreed to do some reactive cleaning. However, Sodexo will not allow them to enter a room for 24 hours for the protection of those staff members, which we certainly understand. We have some concerns with that from ServPro. Obviously, a big concern could be the cost. At this point, we've spent over $11,000, and like I said, we really had very little activity, so that could add up pretty quickly. The other piece is with her team, and if we take classrooms offline for a 24-hour period, if we only have one or two throughout the district, that may be manageable, but we're concerned that could become problematic pretty quickly as well. And additionally, pardon me, if she's utilizing those custodians for that type of work, that takes them away from the work that they're typically assigned to do. So there's some challenges with that. So we did look around. She's talked to some of her colleagues, and we demonstrated this system. It does use xenon pulse lighting. The nice thing is they're mobile carts, and you can take a cart and disinfect a room, 500 square foot room in 30 minutes. And at that point, Sodexo will allow staff to go in and clean immediately. When we had the demonstration, I will tell you, when you walked into the class, we did the demonstration, we had some conversations, you got it set up in another room because you can't be in the room when it's doing that because it potentially could damage the cornea. But when we went in the room after it was done, it smelled sterile in the hospital. I will say that certainly this, obviously we want to be responsive during the current pandemic, but if this was all we were going to use it for, we probably wouldn't be bringing it forward to you. But as we started talking to them and talking about, even just during, pardon me, like a normal cold and flu season, if we start to see an uptick in a classroom or a particular building, we can go in and do some proactive measures to try to reduce student absenteeism, which will increase our ADA, reduce teacher absenteeism, which saves those sub dollars, and all in all, just maintain a healthier environment for anyone. As we spoke with a gentleman, he was talking about how it will kill lice, and we immediately asked him about bed bugs because we had a little issue with that when the devices came back this past year. So we can implement that as part of our protocol when the devices come in, put them in a room, treat the room, and then the IT staff can go to work on those devices. So the fact that we can use this beyond this time frame is what was really appealing to us. Obviously we will do it to do reactive things, but we can also do it to be proactive and take it to various schools through rotation. Use it in areas like locker rooms and band and choir rooms, places that we know can be particularly challenging for spreading germs, etc. It does kill MRSA. So, there's just so many benefits. The more we talked about this, it just seemed like a good thing for us to do, particularly right now, but then with the benefits even moving forward, it seemed like long-term it was a good investment to make. And quite frankly, I think we would end up spending at least this much doing some reactive cleaning in just this year alone. We are requesting for 4 units. They are just shy of $15,000 a piece, so it is a pretty significant investment. We recognize that, but like I said, I believe we would spend more than that just in reactive services if we don't make this investment. We do have CARES funds available for us, and this is certainly an ideal way to utilize those funds. We also, we are looking at FEMA grants, and there's other grant opportunities. So there's any number of ways that we will certainly explore to try to recoup these funds if possible. We can only recoup them once though, so we have to be careful. But I think in the attachments, we sent some information specifically about the system that we are requesting to purchase. We also sent, some information just about UV lighting in general. I will say that this system that we're buying, the New York subway system recently installed it. And so I think they've got some, there's also some clinical validations that they have sent. I believe that was included. This dovetails very nicely. Last month when you approved, the project with Johnson Controls, one of the projects within that was the HVAC systems. And so all of the rooftop units that will be installed from them will have UV lighting and the filter. So this is consistent with the type of things that we are doing as we move forward. They do have standalone light fixtures that you could put in every classroom. Obviously, that's not a economically feasible idea for us. If we ever built something new, we'd be having that conversation. But we like the idea that it is on a mobile cart, so we can place. It's about 70 pounds, so it really is pretty flexible. You have to strap it into whatever you're moving it into to protect it, but very, very nimble, and we'll be able to use it in any number of locations. So happy to respond to any questions you have, but we just really see a lot of benefits. Obviously, right now during the situation we find ourselves in, but also just moving forward in trying to maintain a good, safe environment for our staff and our kiddos.
Again, as I mentioned at the beginning, and I've said a couple different times, our goal is to be as fiscally responsible as we possibly can. We've chosen not to spend millions of dollars on certain things, as Ms. Cook mentioned, that we don't believe are going to provide long-term gain. But we also need to make sure that we keep our buildings as safe as possible, as clean as possible, and that our staff, when they come back, and our students, when they come back, that they feel safe, and our parents understand what our responses are going to be. One of the questions that we get is, what do you do whenever you have a positive case in a building? I get that question a lot, and we answer it as honestly as we possibly can. This is part of that response. This would be part of that response for us to make sure that that particular room would be sanitized in an appropriate way. We have to do that anyways, and we have been doing that anyways. As you mentioned, it costs us a lot of money to do that unless we're doing it ourselves. So it is a lot of money to still ask, but it is something that I believe it would be very valuable to our team.
So I hear you said the New York subway system, but do you know of any other school districts in the area that are using something similar?
Nixa has these cards, just down south.
Where would you keep the 4 units, like as of every day?
I will tell you that Ms. Brantley wants to keep them either in the warehouse or in her office for now. She's been, because they are expensive, she's feeling a little nervous and protective about them. She also needs to make sure we have adequate time to train the staff on using them properly. They will provide almost like a welder's glasses to go with it. The nice thing is if it's working and you go in the room, it turns off automatically. So it's, very minimal option for anyone being injured in any way. But yes, I think she initially will limit how many people can utilize that. So I would anticipate, I had told her I would anticipate keeping one probably at the high school because of those band rooms and choir rooms and locker rooms. I would probably anticipate one being at High Grove because those little kiddos are on the floor and all over, and quite frankly, those are the ones that may be least likely to do some of the safe practices once we do get kiddos back in school, just by virtue of their age and or some other challenges they may have. Then the other two, I would see, kind of, as they say, rotating throughout different buildings to be proactive, but then if something happened, we can swarm with 4 of them on one location if we need to.
So DEXO can't enter that room, it would be a district personnel that would be putting those in place to.
I'm sorry if I misspoke. Right now, SEDEXO won't allow any custodial staff,
Right.
whether they're ours or theirs,
Right.
to go into a room until 24 hours.
Right.
If we utilize this machine, they would
They
be.
would be going in
At
to
our-
start the machine. Okay, that's.
Yeah, our staff can start it, and then once the process is done, our staff can then go, because they're still gonna go in and clean and wipe down and do their process, but they'll be able to do it immediately after
No.
the machine has done this process. We won't have to wait that 24 hours.
I was more thinking who's gonna wheel it in there, if they didn't want them in there at all, who's gonna put it in there to get it going, yeah. So, okay.
Yeah, I think they're comfortable with bringing the machine. I mean, that's a pretty short time frame. They just don't want them in there wiping
Staying
everything
there,
down
yeah,
and-
okay, that makes
and
sense.
being in contact.
Okay, that sounded like a bunch of blah, 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 blah to me, so you may have already answered this question.
Sorry.
So who is operating it? Is it school staff or is it the contractor?
It could potentially be either or, but the point was that, the question was, who would wheel it in? And Sodexo is comfortable with either of the staff bringing it into the building and bringing it into the room. They just weren't comfortable with, if there was an outbreak, one of the staff members going in and starting to clean and wipe down. But they can wheel that in and they can, make sure and start the machine, and then once it's done, they can immediately then go in and begin their cleaning process inside that room. So that way, rather than waiting the full 24-hour period, we can actually get in there and have all that done in a much shorter period of time, obviously.
It would be
Okay.
a combination. It's a blended staff, will be a combination of Sodexo employees and district employees.
Okay, so, Sodexo employee goes in, plugs it in, and it's broke. And the only people that's touched it is Sodexo employees. Who pays to repair it?
I don't know, I think it would depend on a lot of different things around that. I think it would be,
The reason I say that is the city, when I worked for them, we talked about buying the same kind of carts for the bathrooms and the parks and stuff like that. And the reason we didn't do that was because of the responsibility of staff members making sure it gets there, because I guarantee you, it may be 15,000 new, but every part on it that breaks is gonna be half that price. Once you go to the maintenance side of it.
Did I miss, is there a warranty or service contract that I didn't see?
There's a warranty on it, but not a service contract.
Would we get a service contract? Because I didn't see it, I only saw the price for the units.
I don't know if I would have to explain that. I don't know the answer to that.
So, I mean, as far as I'm
Service
concerned, 15,000 is cheap to protect the students. But I don't want to spend $15,000 every 6 months because one of them's down or broke or something like that, especially during these times.
yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think what we would explore at that point is, if there was an issue with that, we'd have an issue back with the company in terms of quality of work and things like that. If there's a negligence issue, then that's a little bit different, but I think that's the reason why Ms. Brantley wants very specifically to keep them housed at maintenance, and then be very specific about who is going to be using them, and then slowly starting to branch that out. And it's not just going to be anyone being able to transport or use it, that it would be very limited, especially at the beginning. So that way, we wouldn't necessarily have to have that issue, and it's not just in a closet somewhere that anybody can just roll out and use.
Okay,
I will-
and you may have said that earlier and I didn't hear it, but that's what I wanted to hear, that it's gonna be specific people that have been trained on it, and not just every maintenance guy that goes over and picks up the pickup truck, throws it in the back of the truck. And I mean, I hate to say this, but a couple weeks ago, I seen one of the maintenance guys go down the road with a mower, and they had to stop and restrap it down because it was trying to roll off the back.
Thank you for that information. I will also
That was a
share.
city of Grandview employee, right?
No, it was a school district employee.
Why did you have to ask her?
My guess, because he stopped in front of the water department as he was headed to Belvedere to mow.
Mr. Kessinger, I would also add, I have great confidence in Ms. Brantley, as far as trying to, take good care of district assets. Number one, I think that's just who and what she is, but number two, quite frankly, Sodexo is not gonna risk the contract and losing the contract over a broken machine. I don't believe.
Well, I still think we should limit it to people that we know are trained. If we're gonna keep them, it needs to be our people.
Absolutely.
Was there an answer to the warranty question? Because I missed it.
No, how long is the warranty? There's not a service contract quoted yet. They would have to ask about that. She's checking on the warranty now.
Okay, but there, we do have, okay.
Yeah, it's not listed on the quote. I sell equipment for a living, so I can tell you that whatever's on the quote is what they're gonna honor. And it's not listed as a warranty or any service, so it would be very important, I think, for us to get that in writing.
I'm good, thank you.
1 year.
Thank you, sorry.
I think the question was asked, I couldn't hear again. Have you contacted any other schools that have this product?
Yeah, Nixa is south of us. Nixa uses that. There's other companies, other organizations across the country that do, and she mentioned the New York subway system is installing or has installed something very similar.
Have we contacted Nixa though to see how they've done with it? Is it the same company that this is?
Yes.
Yeah, that's how,
Yes to both.
that's how we found out about it, actually.
Okay. And I would definitely say we need a warranty for service, because I agree with Monica. I can guarantee you within something's going to happen, fault or not. I mean, just something can happen. A service warranty almost is a must, almost is a must.
And the Puro documentation.
Attachment.
Yeah,
We
it-
will explore that.
First attachment, last page, warranty 18 months.
Yeah, the carts have a warranty of 18 months. The lighting systems that they were quoting as a warranty of a year, but the carts that we're buying have a warranty of 18 months.
Does the warranty include getting it fixed by their service, or do we have to pay for the service? Or, I mean, a blanket warranty doesn't always mean it's really warranted. I think we've all had that before, where it only covers the shell, but it doesn't cover any of the workings.
Amy, I can say, just again, being in equipment sales, for this type of equipment, a warranty means if it's broken, they're gonna fix it in that period. It might not be the same for like if we buy a washing machine and they've got all these little fine prints, but with this type of equipment, a warranty is if it breaks, they're gonna fix it. Oh, good, thank you.
Go for it, Chuck.
Nixa, I think, does Sodexo service Nixa also, and has Sodexo recommended these units, particular units, or okayed them?
Yes, Nixa is Sodexo Nixa uses Sodexo, that is correct. They've had them for a little bit, they've actually ordered more. Okay, they actually, I believe, ordered more of the units.
Thank you.
Yeah, they're still on.
Okay.
We just can't see them
For
anymore.
me for a second.
All right, are there more questions or concerns, or are we still looking for information?
I'm good.
All right. If there are no further questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Daniel Green, I make a motion to approve the purchase of 4 mobile disinfectant lighting system carts from First Light of Tulsa at a cost not to exceed $59,900.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. We approve the purchase of 4 mobile disinfectant lighting system carts from First Light of Tulsa at a cost not to exceed $59,900. We get a roll call vote, please.
Amy Blankenship,
Yes.
Chuck Cornforth,
Aye.
John Boyd,
Aye.
Damon Green,
Aye.
Don Kessinger,
Aye.
Monica Terry,
Aye.
Leonard Green.
Aye, motion passes unanimous. Thank you very much. We moved the caring for kids up, so we're now at strategic governance calendar revision.
Yeah, obviously with the movements that, and the things that the board approved, there's been a lot of changes to our calendar, so we believe that we've captured those items in bullets, so you can see those. Happy to respond to any questions, but as we have additional changes that may arise, obviously we'll bring those to the board. I don't know if there was any surprises on there, anything that we did to change and modify our calendar. I think we discussed and I told you those things were coming, and then we need the board to officially approve. So again, happy to respond to questions, but I think all those items were in those bullets.
And with that, if there are no questions, we'll entertain a motion.
Damon Green, I make a motion, we approve the revisions to the calendar for school year 2020-21 as presented.
Second.
Been properly moved and second that we approve revisions to the calendar for school year 2020-21 as presented. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Amy Blankenship,
Yes.
Chuck Cornforth,
Aye.
Don Floyd. Aye. Damon Green,
Aye.
Don Kessinger,
Aye.
Monica Terry,
Aye.
Leonard Green.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you very much. Next up, strategic plan year one review. I'm actually going to move that we postpone this until the September meeting, because I don't think we want to be here till midnight. So I move that we postpone this meeting or this agenda item to our September meeting.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second that we postpone this strategic plan year one review agenda item to our September meeting. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Amy Blankenship,
Aye.
Chuck Cornforth,
Aye.
Floyd. Aye. Damon Green,
Aye.
Don Kessinger,
Aye.
Monica Terry. Aye. Leonard Green.
Aye, motion carries unanimous. Thank you very much, folks. Next up, our resolution. And this we've already talked about, and what I can do, I can read over this. If you haven't already read it, I can read over it, or I just wanted to make it known that this is what we stand behind, this is what we put out. And as a unified board, this is where we stand, because in these days and times, you got to stand for something. And I think it was the right thing to do, and I applaud each and every one of you for your input and support. So thank you.
And if I could, sir, I appreciate it as well, just from my seat as superintendent, to know that the board continues to support the efforts and the work that we're doing in any number of different ways. And so I appreciate the board taking this stance, and certainly in support of the work that we're doing, continue to do, and that we will do in the future, not only with our staff, but with our students and our community. So thank you for that as well.
Thank you. So bear with me for a moment, because normally I hate people reading to me, and I don't like reading to anyone else, but I think it's one of those things that's important, especially since we're not all together. So let me go. I'll just start at the beginning. Resolved that the Board of Education fully supports the following statement. We are in unprecedented times, and as the governing body of our school district, we would like to be very clear and transparent on our ongoing practices and position. As the pandemic continues to disrupt what we once called normal, the district adapts and moves to provide our children with the tools and resources needed to move forward. It is an ongoing, ever-evolving process. We take the safety of all our community members very seriously, and will do our very best to protect them all. In addition to the pandemic, we have seen the ugly effects of racial injustice and insensitivity. Systemic racism is an issue that has been neatly tucked away from open discussion and often explained away as if it does not exist. Grandview C4 has been highly invested in building a safe and diverse environment for all. Advancing the implementation of cultural competency as an integral step to promote student success, family engagement, and staff fellowship is an objective identified in the district's current strategic plan and has been a focus during Dr. Rodriguez's superintendency. Our district is blessed with a diverse population where students have opportunity to interface with people from all walks of life, and they deserve the best education that they can get in order to excel in the world. The board will continue to support Dr. Rodriguez and his team in their ongoing actions to identify and address inequalities, stereotypes, and implicit biases based on race and other demographics. These actions have included culturally aware hiring practices, curriculum review, and professional development, as well as encouraging open, honest conversations about race and racial issues based on actual data. These actions have included process modifications to our hiring practices, curriculum review, and professional development to include a focus on cultural humility. We know all stakeholders associated with our school district must continue to have open, honest conversations about race and racial issues based on actual data. We also want to make it clear that the board supports our men and women of law enforcement while at the same time denouncing race-related violence, including police brutality. The Grandview C4 School District has continued to build a mutually supportive relationship with our local law enforcement, fire department, and city hall. We honor and thank them for their service, and the Grandview C4 Board of Education stands against racism and hate in all of its forms. On behalf of our students, we must and will move forward together. We are Grandview. So again, I thank you, I appreciate you and applaud you. And I wanted to make sure that it's known where we are and where we stand. So again, thank you. And with that, sorry, I'm bouncing all over. I got all kind of caught up for a minute. So, bye-bye. I will entertain a motion on that one.
I move we approve the adoption of new policies. Oh, that racial justice, sorry, I'm just like moving on, like he's ready to go, I am too. I move we adopt the resolution regarding safety and racial justice as presented.
I'll second it if nobody else will. Been properly moved and second that we adopt the resolution regarding safety and racial injustice as presented. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Amy Blankenship,
Aye.
Rick Hornforth,
Aye.
John Foy. Aye. Danny Green,
Aye.
John Kessinger,
Aye.
Monty Terry,
Aye.
Leonard Green.
Aye, motion carries unanimous. Thank you very much. Next up, policies on first reading.
Yeah, ask Ms. Myers to take us through this. Obviously, we've presented several new items for you.
So you have, I believe it's 18 policies in front of you. Most of those are from the MSBA issue 2020A, which we recently got. It's not all of them from that issue, so there'll be a few more. There are also 3 district initiated policies. I think the explanations are included on those policies, and I'd happily answer any questions that you might have regarding any of those.
If there are no questions, I think you know what follows. I will entertain a motion.
I got this one. Approve adoption of new policies, DFI, GBCBA, and IHB, and approve revisions to policies, the remaining, as presented on first reading.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second that we approve the recommendation as presented. The roll call vote, please. Yes, I cheated.
Aye.
Rick Hornforth,
Aye.
John Floyd. Aye. Damon Green,
Aye.
John Kessinger,
Aye.
Monica Terry,
Aye.
Leonard Green.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you very much. Next up, report of board members.
Don't shoot me because I have to speak and everybody's ready to go. But as the board GEF representative, I just had a few things I wanted to report on. GEF board decided to move the Heroes for Education walk run to the spring rather than trying to do a virtual event and do it badly. We're proceeding with the trivia night plans, whether it be virtual or in person. And we decided to combine the employee recognition banquet with the Jane Bryan Distinguished Alumni Recognition while still making sure we honor our employees highly. And then finally, it's that time of year when I encourage you, we try to encourage staff members to contribute to GEF. We encourage 100% staff participation. So I think it's important for the school board to also participate. Some of you already do that. Kathy would be happy to take any kind of contribution you want to give to GEF. Isn't that right, Kathy?
That's absolutely right.
Okay. There are forms on the website.
All right, thank you much. Any other reports? I don't see a head nod or nothing, something.
Nope.
Okay, all right. No more miscellaneous, and well, we're down to the last one. I'll entertain a motion.
Oh, I got it already. I move we adjourn.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. We adjourn. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Amy Blankenship,
Aye.
Cornforth,
Aye.
Boyd,
Aye.
Damon Green,
Aye.
Don Kessinger,
Aye.
Monica Terry, Leonard Green.
Aye, motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you all, appreciate it.
Have a wonderful evening.
Two.
Good thing.
Clear.
You want this back so we keep those things,
Hi, y'all.